your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow alone. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
It is a phone-in Friday edition of Running Point on YSNLive.com. Ron Potesta with you alongside Anthony Hardwig. We're going to talk all kinds of different sports between now and 3 o'clock. Gary Housetu will be calling in as we have the Chuck Housetu Memorial Golf Tournament coming up tomorrow. We'll get the particulars when Gary calls in. It's 2:30, and we'll talk some golf and some opportunities to contribute to a really, really good cause. But we begin the day, Anthony, with some interesting tidbit of news. Number one, big story coming out of the Horizon League. The Horizon League is going to take a hiatus as they have put the competition sports on hold until October the 1st. Now, this does not include Youngstown State's football team because the Missouri Valley Football Conference has not made that commitment yet.
And that brings up an important point. Horizon League does not have football, so this was probably a much easier decision for Horizon League to say, let's just take a break with fall sports because they don't have a revenue stream for fall sports. Their big revenue comes with basketball season. So this was probably a much easier decision for Horizon League to make than the other conferences that have to worry about the revenue that they'll get with football or they'll lose with football.
Now, the sports that are not going to be impacted, again, football, because the YSU men's team is in the Missouri Valley Football Conference. The women's lacrosse program is in the Mid-American Conference. The women's bowling team is in the Southland Bowling League. So women's bowling, women's lacrosse, and football are not going to be involved. However, there are going to be some sports that are going to be involved in this. Volleyball is one of the big ones. And, again, the Horizon League taking the hiatus until October. That's not the only news coming out of the mid-major schools. It was announced today that the Colonial Athletic Association, and that is the football conference that many people deem as the second best conference in FCS football, only behind the Missouri Valley Football Conference, they have shut down their season. Now, James Madison is already saying, hey, we're going to be playing an independent schedule then. We're going to play.
They can do that.
Yeah, we're going to play football. It's just we're going to have an independent schedule. The problem is you're going to have to schedule 8 or 9 games pretty quickly here if you want to have the amount of games needed in order to get to the FCS playoffs. And anyone that, if you're canceling your football season now in mid-July and you're trying to become an independent like James Madison, boy, are you behind the 8 ball right now.
There might be other conferences that follow CAA's suit, though, that cancel their football season. Maybe there will be other teams that follow James Madison's suit and say, well, then we're going to be independent, and then they can just play each other. Maybe there will be other teams in the CAA that follow James Madison's suit and decide to make an independent season, and they can play them. It just won't be a conference game. I mean, James Madison is, right now they're behind the 8 ball, but in the next week they could be finding a lot of teams that need someone to play all of a sudden.
Well, there's 2 other leagues that have canceled their fall sports. The Ivy League, we knew this, and the Patriot League, a league that is essentially
Bucknell, right?
Eastern Seaboard FCS program. So 3 leagues have already announced that they're pretty much done for the fall. Anthony, I got to ask, and it's a two-pronged question. If the Missouri Valley Football Conference is still on course, and from what we're told, YSU football is a go. They're ready to go. If that is the case, is it all systems go? And more importantly, if you don't have the Patriot League, the Ivy League, and the Colonial Athletic Association playing football this year, my guess is you either have to lower the amount of teams going to the playoffs, or you're going to get a whole lot of teams from the Missouri Valley Football Conference getting into the postseason because of this.
Well, we might see. I mean, the mid-major conferences have already come out and said they had plans to alter their tournament, kind of format in the other sports like baseball, softball, basketball, whatnot. So we might. I mean, if that's the biggest problem you have in starting a football season, that you'll have to alter your playoff format, then I'm okay with that. You make less teams. How many get in right now in a normal FCS season?
24.
So maybe shrink that to what, 16?
Yeah, and not have any buys, because
Right.
I believe the top 8 teams have a bye into the second round. Then you have the 16 teams play each other. 8 teams are left, joining the 8 teams that had the bye into the field of 16. Then they go to the quarterfinals, semis, and championship game.
And if YSU happens to find themselves with an open slate, do you think they call up James Madison? I mean, that'd be a good non-conference game.
Absolutely, it would.
I would get them on the phone in a hurry if they find themselves with an open date all of a sudden.
Well, I mean, they're going to be opening the season at Akron, and knock on wood that the Mid-American Conference doesn't shut down. September the 12th, they're taking on Duquesne. Now, that's in the Northeastern Conference. That's the conference that has, up until this year, Robert Morris, and I believe Robert Morris is still going to be in that conference for football.
Yeah.
They're just going to make the jump to the Horizon League in basketball,
Yeah.
which I think is a good step in the right direction for them. St. Francis, the school that's located in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, or in that vicinity, they're in that conference. Central Connecticut is in that conference as well. Who knows if they're going to be playing football, but right now that game is supposed to be played on September the 12th, and then September the 19th, Eastern Kentucky out of the Ohio Valley Conference comes to Stambaugh. So it's a solid non-conference schedule. Hopefully, again, knock on wood, the Penguins are going to be able to play those 3 games.
Yeah, and when we get back to the thing that started this, the Horizon League, I talked to several Horizon League fall sport athletes, since I get to cover Horizon League volleyball for ESPN last season, and a lot of them had the same sentiment of saying they're of course upset, but they would be a lot more upset if nothing changes in October and they come out and they don't have the same stance for basketball, and they kind of alter their tune and say, well, let's just go play basketball, and they don't. And the fall sport athletes are going to feel really smited by that if Horizon League doesn't change their tune, if nothing really changes as far as COVID-19 by October. And then the Horizon League comes out and says that we're going to play basketball anyway. Because then they'll feel like that the Horizon League doesn't care about the safety like they're making themselves out to be. They care more about the revenue and the money. So I'm going to wait to pass judgment on the Horizon League until basketball season comes around, and we'll see what decision they make based on what the COVID numbers are in October. But if that does happen to be the case, then I'll be with them. I'd be kind of upset at the Horizon League.
The MAC, by the way, followed the Horizon League yesterday, delaying the start of the fall Olympic sports season until September 3rd, according to John Vargo. This would be field hockey, soccer, women's volleyball, and cross country. That is in the Mid-American Conference, but the Horizon League is not going to be doing anything until October the 1st. And by the way, some of the sports involved, men's and women's cross country, women's soccer, tennis, golf, they were supposed to have scheduled competition August and September. All of that is now on hold until October the 1st. And
they're not going to start a season in October,
No.
so you might as well just axe their season. I mean,
either that or move it to the spring.
right.
And how
do you do that?
How do you do that if you have all of the other ancillary sports that are taking place? I mean, if you have cross country, if you have cross country in the fall, which is normally when it's run, and you move it to the spring, are some of the long distance track and field participants taking part in cross country in the fall?
Right.
So if they are, now you have to make a decision. Do you want to be a cross country an athlete, or do you want to continue being on track and field? And it's gonna open up a enormous Pandora's box that I don't think anyone wants to see.
Postseason in all these sports are going to look a lot different because they're probably going to be conferences that follow suit with the Horizon League and say we're not playing these Olympic sports this year. But then there are going to be the big conferences that probably do play the Olympic sports because they're the ones that draw the crowds. I would be stunned if the Big Ten doesn't play volleyball because Nebraska sells out their volleyball stadium every night. And they get revenue from their volleyball. Not football type revenue, but they get revenue from their volleyball. So it'll be interesting to see if that tournament kind of changes because might be a lot of mid-major conferences that do axe the Olympic sports season, but then maybe the Power Fives don't.
Yeah, I'm going to be really curious to.
All these conferences are doing different things.
Yeah, and this is all on the NCAA because, once again, the lack of leadership that is not shown by the NCAA is glaring right now.
Mark, what's his last name? The president of the NCAA came out yesterday, and he's like, well, the COVID data points aren't really pointing to a good way for the fall sports season in the NCAA. He hasn't spoken at all in months.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing he says. That's like a meteorologist coming out in a hurricane and being like, well, it's raining. Well,
no kidding. Yeah. Hey, Captain Obvious.
Right?
Good job, buddy. Mark Emmert is.
Mark Emmert, yeah, that guy. And then Mac Brown went on the Paul Feinbaum show this morning, and he called for a commissioner of college athletics to kind of bring some unity into college sports. What do you think about that? I don't know if you heard his statement, but Mac Brown is very respected. And when he comes out and says we need unity in college sports, not all these conferences doing different things themselves, he called for a commissioner of college sports that's separate from the president of NCAA.
This is where when we spoke with Brian Driscoll last week, and he dropped the bombshell that there's a very good chance in the very near future that the Power Five conferences, the ACC, the SEC, the Big Ten, the Pac-12, the Big 12, are all going to say, hey, NCAA, kiss our collective, you know what, we're going to go on our own, screw you. This is where if you don't get a commissioner, a person that has the power to sit back and say, I am the judge, the jury, and when I need to be the executioner, if the NCAA does not get a commissioner with backbone and some balls, unlike Mark Emmert, who's as gutless a person as he's right up there with Governor DeWine and his state of whatever the hell he was talking about on Wednesday.
Press conference on Wednesday.
That press conference was the single most gutless press conference I've seen in quite some time.
I felt like it was just an attention grab. I mean, he knew everyone was going to be watching because he changed the time, and then he came out and just politely asked us all to wear masks. It's like that could
instead of mandating
right?
and saying, "Hey, show some backbone," and say, "You know what? The numbers are up. It's time for all of us to put a mask on when you're outside. It's time to put a mask on when you're in buildings. It's time to put a mask on, period, unless you're by yourself." That's what he should have done. Likewise, Mark Emmert, instead of being Captain Obvious and milquetoast like he's been for years, he should have stood up and said, hey, look, it's now time for the NCAA to hire a commissioner, someone who's going to have the guts to stand up and say, my decision is final, and I'm not going to be swayed by the president of the NCAA. I'm going to look at it and make the decision based on a lot of things. We're not out to screw anybody. We're not out to nitpick anyone if you happen to break a violation that's 85 years old that shouldn't even be a violation. One of the commissioner's jobs, I would hope, would be to update the rules, which most are very archaic at this moment. The NCAA desperately needs a commissioner.
And if they had one, you wouldn't be seeing these conferences be forced to say we're going to be conference-only football, because there'd be a universal protocol put in place by the NCAA commissioner. That way, that's the only reason they're playing conference-only, because they can't trust what the Pac-12 is doing if it lines up with the Big Ten's protocol.
Exactly.
So if we had one commissioner that came out and said, this is our universal protocol, you wouldn't have to worry about it. Everyone's following the same rules.
It's like every conference is making their own laws.
Right?
And that's not going to work.
And
I mean, that's anarchy at this
that point. Why do you need the NCAA?
Exactly. And that's yet another reason why, sooner or later, the Power 5 conferences are going to look at the NCAA and say, you guys aren't giving us any leadership.
Right.
Screw you. We're out of here.
And then the high schools are going to look at that and go, huh.
Yeah, they're going to look at the same thing.
It's a copycat world. The high schools are going to look at the OHSAA or whatever the state's athletic department is and going, you're not doing anything for us except giving us a state championship.
And we could do that ourselves.
Right.
Yeah. Now, the good news is if you hit the 5-iron into the state of Pennsylvania, yes, their football tournament is stupid compared to Ohio's tournament. I think Ohio's is, by and large, the best way to get it done. You reward teams that play a tough schedule, assuming that they win those games, and you do not reward 10-0 seasons in which you're doing a equivalent of stepping over a Sunday paper as a 7'2" giant. I mean, that's the way it should be. You should be rewarded for playing a tougher schedule, assuming you win games, and that's what the computer polls do. But the PIAA, by and large, yes, their tournaments are crazy, but by and large, I really like how the PIAA is constructed. Yes, they need to work on some things when it comes to their protocol, but I think the PIAA is a much better and a much better run organization. It's more organized and it's a better run organization than the OHSAA.
And that's pretty sad when Ohio only has to look to their border to see someone that's doing a little bit better than they are. I mean, that should be pretty easy to look over and say, hey, Pennsylvania's doing this right. Let's try to emulate it. But no, we're that's too easy.
All right, some of the other things that we're going to be talking about. Myles Garrett officially signed the contract. He gets a very large pay raise that is going to come into play in 2021. 5-year deal, $125 million. $100 million will be guaranteed. We talked about this on Wednesday. Is Myles Garrett worth $25 million now? Hell no, he is not. He has not stepped up. He has not been the dominant player that a first pick overall should be. Now, having said that, last year, up until the time that Garrett lost his ever-loving mind and took Mason Rudolph's helmet and tried to put it back on Mason backwards.
That storm was coming because Myles Garrett was also one of the highest personal foul grabbers in the National Football League.
Yes.
So you can kind of see that he was starting to become a personal foul issue.
And this is a big if, and this is where the Browns are gambling. Does this man have a lot of talent? Yes, he does. Does this man have the ability to be an elite defensive lineman and one of the best of all time? Absolutely he does. Keep in mind, and again, my Bills bias is going to show, the man that worked with him is the greatest pass rusher in the history of the National Football League. Bruce Smith worked with him. If Bruce Smith is working with this guy is going to learn a ridiculous amount of knowledge. And Myles Garrett is a very, very good athlete. Now, the question is he going to grow up, and is he going to be all that the Browns believe he can be? Browns are gambling on the fact that Myles Garrett's going to grow up. If he does, then this contract is worth every single penny. If he underachieves like he did in 2 of the first 3 years, then the Browns are going to be looking rather crazy, giving this guy $100 million guaranteed.
Yeah, and there's 2 ways to look at Myles Garrett if you're a GM, and there's the Browns' perspective where they're betting on his future, but then there's the other way that maybe some other teams would have handled it where they're saying this guy's not worth it right now, and they're not going to pay him. I think the Browns were in a great opportunity to make that bet because they're teetering on being a good team.
Absolutely they are.
On the fence of being a good team. And when you're in that position, bet big, win big. I mean, for the first time in a long time, Cleveland is in the opportunity where they can afford to make that bet. And if it works out for them, then that GM's going to look like the smartest guy in the room. If it doesn't, then, hey.
Yeah, I had said in 2018, and this was when the Browns were coming off a god-awful year, that I had said that the light at the end of the tunnel is not nearly as far away as it should be. Actually, it was 2017 they had the god-awful year, and then they took the giant step forward in 2018.
A little step back.
And I sat back and said, okay, look, you might be taking a step back in 2019 because the first 7 games of that schedule last year were brutal. And if you didn't get off to a good start, you would probably not win the majority of the second half games because some dissension would bring in. And unfortunately, dissension was brought in. Charlie from the Waffle House was not a good enough guy to keep everyone together. And the 2019 season went up in flames because there was too much dissension. Having said that, there is an awful lot of talent on this team in Berea. There is talent on this team. Now, whether this team is going to be able to get together, assuming we have football, and be able to win 10 or more games and be able to be a solid playoff contender and actually get into the playoffs for just the second time since the Browns came back in the 99 season, I don't know. I'm looking at the schedule and I'm thinking to myself, this team does have the capability to win 9 or 10 games, but it's all going to depend on a lot of variables, and the biggest of which is Baker Mayfield going to be able to play more like his rookie year and less like the second year?
Well, another variable is Ben Roethlisberger healthy? Because if he's healthy, if he is, then all of a sudden the Browns are in the toughest division in the AFC,
and they're going to be a third place team,
right? I know Browns fans hate hearing it, but they are in the toughest division in the AFC right now as it stands, and that's going to hurt them. That's why I think they're not going to make the playoffs, because they're going to have to play the Ravens twice and the Steelers twice. They might lose 3 out of 4 of those games, and then their out-of-conference schedule isn't exactly easy.
Let me look and get your honest opinion about it, because you got Cincinnati twice, you have the Ravens twice, obviously you have the Steelers twice. They split with Baltimore last year.
They did,
and what were they, 3-3 or 2-4 in their division? Because did they beat the Steelers last year?
They beat them when Myles Garrett hit them on the head with the helmet.
So they went 3-3 because they split with the Bengals. They should have never split with them, but it is what it is. I could see the Browns being 4-2 in their division, but I can also see the Browns once again being 3-3. Can they beat the Bengals twice?
Yeah.
Again, it depends. I mean, if the season goes sideways like it did early last year, oh yeah, I could see the Browns screwing up and losing a game to Cincinnati. But I think that they have the capability to beat Baltimore.
Baltimore's getting better, and Lamar Jackson's going to be 1 year better, and their trajectory is like up here, and the Browns are like, I mean, they definitely can. I just wouldn't bet on them beating Baltimore.
Well, Cleveland matches up with Baltimore well because their defensive line, they're on,
they can rush the quarterback.
They can rush the quarterback very well with 4, and you can give their quarterback some problems.
Normal quarterback. The guy that can escape like Lamar Jackson.
Well, again, that's where your linebackers are going to have to come into play.
And the linebackers are the Browns' weakness.
Yeah, exactly. If you get past the first level, this could be a nightmare for the Browns. Even though Mac Wilson, I think, is going to have a very good year. I think he's going to make the jump from rookie year to second year.
And the Ravens added some weapons on the outside. So all of a sudden, you're going to have more defenders with their back to Lamar Jackson if they want to take away their receiving weapens.
Yeah.
Which is going to cause more problems.
Now, the Ravens and the Steelers are clearly maybe a step and a half ahead of Cleveland. And again, the Steelers, it all comes down to whether or not Roethlisberger's elbow is healthy. Historically, the quarterbacks do not have good success when the elbow's been operated on. So there's no guarantee that Ben's going to be able to grip it and rip it like he did years ago. I think he's going to be more of the veteran quarterback that's lost a couple miles an hour on his fastball, but could still play rather
I don't.
decent.
I mean, for the Steelers to be successful, I don't think he has to be 100%. I think he has to be, I'll say 80% of what he was, as long as he's a veteran leader. They got plenty of talent where he doesn't have to be the 100% Ben Roethlisberger of, what was it, Super Bowl, the corner throw to the end zone.
Yeah,
I
and
forget
that
what
was in
number it was.
2009.
But my
Yeah.
word, he doesn't have to be that good anymore. But definitely, I think 80% Ben Roethlisberger would be good for Pittsburgh.
So we'll see what happens there. I mean, but the Browns definitely have the team on the rise. I mean, we'll see what happens. But Myles Garrett, the inking of Myles Garrett, he's not worth the money now. But Cleveland is gambling, and I think they're making the right decision.
Absolutely.
Because I think Myles Garrett is a guy that, yes, he did something incredibly stupid last year. But I think that he's learned from that. I think he's going to grow from that. And Myles Garrett is actually a good guy. He's well-spoken, and he works his ass off.
What you need is to find Myles Garrett's happy medium where he keeps that kind of I don't know, swagger type, almost arrogance that he has, but then not let it get to the point where it got to last year, where he was throwing helmets at people.
Yeah.
Because he needs that kind of attitude to be successful.
He has to have more of a controlled rage.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those guys that needs the swagger, arrogance to be good. So you can't take that away from him.
No.
But at the same point, you can't let it get out of control.
Now, again, I see similarities, and he's nowhere near as talented as Bruce Smith, although his numbers the first 3 years compared to
He's got
Bruce
30
Smith's
sacks.
numbers are pretty good. They're very similar. Now, with Bruce, he was out of shape for his first 3 years, and they tried everything to get him to work on the lower half of his body, and finally someone gave Bruce Smith the Stairmaster and said, "This is yours. I want you to use it as often as possible, and this is going to make your lower half of your body that much stronger, and it's going to take some of that belly fat away from you." 1 year with that thing,
Well,
and Bruce Smith is now a chiseled rock.
One of the things that Myles Garrett has that Bruce Smith didn't, and correct me if I'm wrong because you're the Bills fan, but he's got other guys that you have to really worry about on the defensive line.
Yeah,
And
Bruce Smith had
didn't.
nobody. Yeah, he had nobody. Now, it was a 3-4 defense, and
Yeah,
okay.
but 3-4, you got to have.
You gotta have a good-
You have the linebacker that's basically your defensive end.
Yeah, but you got to have a good nose tackle
Yeah.
next to you. No disrespect to some of the nose tackles in Bill's history. Very few of them have been able to cut the mustard. But he did have good linebackers. Darryl Talley, who I believe is one of the best linebackers and probably the most underrated. Cornelius Bennett, in some ways overrated, but he was a very good linebacker in his day. They were able to work with Bruce,
Yeah.
and the run game was neutralized. If Bruce was doubled, one of these two guys would grab the ball carrier, and there was talent around Bruce, and it's just not on the defensive line. Bruce didn't have another guy on the other end that could get to the quarterback. Now, say what you want about Olivier Vernon, he doesn't sack the quarterback, but when he's healthy, he gets to the quarterback. He pressures the quarterback and disrupts him. Yeah. So there you go. But I think that the decision long term is going to be the right decision for the Browns. Short term, maybe not. News coming out of golf. Jason
You want to talk
Kokrak.
about the elephant in the room?
Jason
Justin Johnson?
Kokrak withdrew from this tournament yesterday after the first round. And he just said, "Yeah, I can't do this." It's 7-0, 7 over after the first round.
Maybe that tells me that there might be something other than psychology going on. You know?
I think he just looked at this course, and after shooting 6 over in the first 2 days last week, he goes 7 over in the first round. He's probably never going to come back to Muirfield ever again. I just think that Kokrak just shook his head and said, "No, I can't do this. This course is ridiculous." Now, Tiger Woods is finding out that he's not very good anymore. He's 6 over. He's
It's
6
his
over
first time
today
back,
through 15.
so-
Well, I mean, he's
and
not
it's-
he's not the Tiger Woods that we saw 10, 15 years ago, and he's older.
Tonar talked about it. I mean, he's becoming human. He's coming a little bit back down to earth, and he's gonna take time. He's not gonna be good every week like he was back when he was 20. It's not gonna happen. He's gonna have his good weeks where he's the old Tiger, and we're all gonna cheer for him. But then he's gonna have weeks like this where you go, "Whoa, Tiger, what are you doing?"
Yeah, well, he's 6 over through 15.
He was 1 under yesterday.
Yeah,
he didn't do bad yesterday.
No, he did pretty well. He was in the top 20, and now he's tied for 103rd.
And
So
he missed a very close birdie putt yesterday. It went right past. I mean, it skipped past the hole. That would have made him 2 under. But yeah, he just had a really bad day. And talk about bad days. How about your boy Dustin?
yeah, you might say that he had a bad day. He had a ridiculously
He
bad
shot
day.
an 80.
Yeah, that was not
My
good.
boy in the lead.
Yeah. By the way, Dustin Johnson is he's going to be golfing at 117 today, and he is no longer in the basement. But at 8 over par, the cut line right now is 2 over. So
Good
he
luck.
would have to go 6 under on the day. Not that it's an impossibility. Ricky Fowler, who was actually worse than Dustin Johnson yesterday, he shot 9 over. Ricky Fowler is 4 under today. Now, that's the good news. The bad news is he's still 3 shots away from making the cut list, and he's running out of holes as he's on the 17th hole. So Fowler is, despite a really, really good performance today, he buried himself in round number 1. And if you bury yourself, well, sorry about your luck. You're not going to be in the money, and your weekend gets cut short. But 2 over is the cut line. Tiger through 15 is 5 over. It doesn't look like Tiger is going to get himself a shot, although he is right on the par 5, 7th hole, because he played the back 9 first, and he put the first shot about 315 into the fairway.
He still got the drive.
Yeah, he still
I'll
has
give
the
him that.
drive. So I mean, if he can eagle this hole or birdie this hole, okay, now he has 2 holes to play and he has 2 shots to make up. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
The last I looked at Tonar's guy, Justin Thomas, he was 2 over, so that'd be right at the cut line. I don't know what he's doing right now.
Yeah, I gotta take a look. Justin Thomas was in danger of being ex-nayed from the tournament as well. And I'm looking at his numbers. He is 2 over. He's golfing this afternoon. Who was your guy?
Why don't you tell the folks at home where John Rahm is?
He's got a smile on his face, so yeah. John Rahm is tied for first right now. 5 under. Oh, Shooter. You're going to do the Shooter McGrath thing. All right. Okay. All right. He's 5 under through 16 holes, and John Rahm, John Rahm is shooting. Well, he might be losing a shot here. The par 3, he is 19 feet from the hole for par.
Ugh,
So he might have to bogey this hole and go back to 3rd place.
he'll be good. He'll be good.
So we'll see what happens.
Go for the Spaniard.
Oh, nice. Very nice. All right, 330-886-0813. So lots of things that we can talk about today. It's a phone-in Friday. Major League Baseball is going to pump in crowd noise, the murmur noise, to all the fields for the start of the season, and I think it's a good idea.
Here's another thing. I've been watching the the inter squad matchups because most of the teams have been broadcasting them on their local station, and they've also been kind of pumping music during kind of like NBA style. What do you think about that? I mean, I know baseball is high on concentration, but that might bring a little bit of stuff to the broadcast.
I still think if this is the year to mic up as many people as
Right.
possible, I would do that.
The Royals last night put a GoPro on the catcher's mask. Oh, it was sweet. So you saw the catcher's view of the pitch coming in?
Yeah.
And the players were talking to the catcher. It was really cool.
Yeah, and you could see just how fast a 90-plus mile-an-hour fastball really is. It's ungodly. And I've told this story a number of times when I was toward the latter years of my Cubs affiliation with the Diamond Jacks. Von Joshua, a former big leaguer with the Dodgers, the Brewers, among other teams, he was our hitting coach, and he was trying to teach kids to use your the barrel of your bat to go the opposite way. So he put a jugs gun about 50 feet, 45, 50 feet from home plate, and he had this thing going about 85, 90 miles an hour, which is the equivalent of over 100 miles an hour. And he's trying to tell guys, look, you got to speed your bat up in order to get the ball the opposite way. So they're all doing this, which I thought was incredible. And he looked over at me and he says, you want to give this a shot? I'm like, not many people would get this opportunity. Let me take a shot here. He goes, don't worry about a batting helmet. Everything is set. They had this thing set. It wasn't moving anywhere, and it wasn't going to hit you. So I step in, and Anthony, I kid you not, I did not see the first pitch. It was that quick.
Right?
I didn't see the first pitch, and I was like, when are you throwing it? And he was laughing his ass off. He looked at me, and he said, I did. I was like, okay. And everyone's just like snickering, and I'm like, all right,
Did you look behind you to see if there was a ball there, so you wasn't like pulling your leg?
Oh, absolutely. and you could hear the whap sound of the ball hitting the back of the batting cage. So I was just like, okay, game on. Let's see what we can do. And I'm way behind on everything, and everyone's just starting to laugh. And I said, all right, give me one more, because I got to get a foul ball. I got to put the ball in play. Foul ball, whatever. I have to just basically save face here. So I got the bat head out as fast as I humanly could. Pretty much had a general idea where the ball was going to be thrown. It was going to probably be in the waist thigh area.
Right in the wheelhouse.
And I'm gonna get this bat head out as quickly as I can. Ball comes in, crack, line drive down the right field line, hooks. Goes foul by about 5 feet, throw the bat up in the air and say, I'm a winner. I don't care what you all say. I made contact, so bite me.
So are you a righty or lefty?
Righty.
So you actually pulled it.
I know. So I went the opposite way.
You said right field. So
yeah, I hit it the opposite way, which is exactly what these guys wanted to do. All the right-handed hitters, you wanted to hit the ball the opposite way. So he had the right-handed hitters working with this.
Slice on it.
So here I am, right-handed, tried to get the bat head out as fast as I could. Got a pretty good part of the bat out.
You were still pretty late on it.
But I was way late, and the ball went slicing foul. But I was happy. I was like, look, I don't do this for a living, and I was able to make contact on a 100-plus mile-an-hour fastball. But even then, you knew the area.
And it was a straight fastball, too.
And it was a straight fastball. You knew the area. So all you had to do was put the bat head out on this. Well, that's easier said than done. Yeah, it's easier said than done.
But yeah, when I was watching that GoPro, there were times when the batter would let the ball go, and I'd be like, I didn't even see the ball.
Oh, it's crazy.
I don't know how umpires see it.
Oh, well, I mean, when you have a guy that's throwing, right. If you lose the ball,
make the call within these inches. It's like, where do I think it went?
If you lose the ball, now you got to cheat and look down where the catcher caught the ball.
That's why I'm framing it.
Now, if he does one of these numbers and starts here, catches it, and brings it over here real quick, umpires can very easily fall into that trap.
Well, that's why every catcher framing is so important, and it's such a. I think it's undertaught a little bit. I see guys, but if you know how to frame a pitch. Especially at the high school and college level. I love seeing catchers that know how to frame.
Now,
and can do it really well.
But from an umpire's standpoint, nothing bothers me more
part of the game.
When a guy does this and then brings it here. Yeah. And I look to the catcher and I tell guys, you do this, I'm going to keep calling this a ball. When you catch the ball, you leave it. leave it where it is. Don't be pulling this crap on me, because even if you catch the ball here and do this, I'm going to call it a ball. I don't care. But by doing this, I'm going to call a ball all night long on you. But if you leave your hand here when the ball comes in, even if you're, say this is the plate, this is the outside corner. If you're right here and that catcher's mitt did not move in any way, shape, or form, I'm calling that a strike.
But like you said, sometimes you're not watching the catcher's mitt, so you don't see them move.
Exactly, and that's where you have to.
That's why framing the pitch is important.
This is framing the pitch too. But if the catcher sees, I may have to move this a little bit.
And Yadier Molina is the best. In the business
my Lord!
at
Yes, he is.
Pitches.
Yes, he is.
I mean, he'll turn a lot of balls into strikes just because he's so quick with that glove and he frames it so well. I think he's one of the best catchers in the business at doing that.
And here's the reason why Yadi is so good at that. If a catcher's doing this and then you bring it over,
right?
You're doing it wrong. You have to bring it over
right
just as the guy is putting the ball into your glove. You can't wait for the ball to go into your glove and then turn it over.
Right.
You got to turn it over and have the ball go into your glove.
You're almost starting outside of the ball, and then you're bringing it into.
Exactly. So if you do that, the umpires, they're not going to have a problem. It's when the ball hits the mitt and then you move it.
Right.
Oh, that's getting called a ball every day of the week and twice on Sundays.
Well, that's another reason why missing your spot is important for a pitcher, because you could throw a strike, but if the catcher's lined up over here and he has to go over here to catch it, that could trick the umpire into thinking that must have been a ball.
Absolutely.
Even if you hit the corner over here, if the catcher moves over here to catch it, it must have been a ball because he had to really move to catch it.
Yeah, because you're trying to throw the ball here, and if you miss your spot and the guy winds up having to catch it over here, even if it's in the strike zone, the umpire could look at this and go, wait a second, he's had to move his glove a good 18 inches over here. I can't call that a strike.
And my favorite is when the catcher has to go up and then he just puts his head down, because it's gone. Like the catcher just knows he missed his spot bad.
Yeah.
And the head drop, like, oh, come on, man.
This is a fascinating part of the game. If a pitcher misses by that much, this could be the difference between a perfect pitch and a pitch that goes about 485 feet.
That's why it takes guts to try to command the inside corner. Because if you miss the inside corner by this much, all of a sudden you're throwing a fastball down the middle of the plate, and it's gone.
That's why
you hit the river, it's really hard to hit.
Yeah, and that's why I don't say that you throw at someone, but if you're missing,
you back them off the plate.
But if you're missing by this much, you aim toward his rib cage and have the ball hit the inner half of the plate. Look, I'm a firm believer. I take the pitcher's side on this. I'm a firm believer that part of the plate is every bit the pitcher's as it is the hitter's. And if a pitcher's digging in, I'm of the old school belief of Drysdale, Koufax, Marichal, Gibson, and all of the old school guys. If I see a guy left-handed or right-handed and he's digging in and he thinks that he's establishing that part of the plate, I am knocking his ass down with a buzz the bell tower type of pitch. And if he wants to get cute and charge the mound, then we'll have a throwdown. That's fine. But this is my side. Just like this side's my side of the plate. It's every bit my side as it is your side. Don't you even think about digging your hole with your back foot, because I'm going to take offense to that.
Let me ask you though. Like, let's say someone comes up, let's say running on first and third, maybe one out, and he knows that he's a good pull hitter, so he's like, I'm going to take away the inside part of the plate. You going to risk hitting him and loading the bases with one out by doing that? Or are you going to say, okay, I'm not going to give you the inside of the plate then? Well,
I can bust him inside without hitting him.
Well, I'm just saying you're taking that risk that you miss by this much.
Well, then you're going to hit him, absolutely. Yeah. But you can if you have impeccable control, And this is where the location real estate talk comes in. If you have that impeccable control and the guy's elbows are hanging out over the inside part of the plate.
Like, I mean, if you don't move and it hits your elbow, as long as you're not over the plate, it's cool, right? As long as you don't move into it. In baseball, you don't have to move out of the way.
Yeah, you don't have to move out of the way. But if the ball is really close to you, but it catches the inside part of the plate, a good umpire is going to look at this and say, dude, you're crowding the plate. That's a strike on the inside corner. Now, you're going to bark about that, but if you bark about that and don't change, this guy's going to go right back to where he was. And if he gets strike 2, now you're going to be, okay, now I have to back away because you don't want to see him do this. And that's where a guy at 0-2 is going to go, I'm going to throw a slider. He's right-handed, so I'm going to put the ball, if a left-hander was up, I'm going to put the ball in the lower back foot of the left side of the batter's box and watch this right-handed batter try to chase that pitch.
Right. The back foot slider is brutal.
Oh, God. It's the worst. Worst pitch in the world, but and the guys that this is a pet peeve that not only mine but a lot of guys that were in the industry or still in the industry. If you're at 0-2, what the hell are you throwing a pitch in the strike zone for?
Oh yeah,
I mean,
a lot of people have gotten in trouble with that.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you throwing a pitch in that strike zone?
I don't always believe, like in a waste pitch where you throw it so far out of the strike
zone.
No,
you don't want to do that. No, absolutely not.
But you should definitely start to nibble a little bit. And then if he takes a couple pitches, go back to the strike zone, you're 2-2, you start to get aggressive again. You can't just fall into that trap where I'm just going to go all the way to 3-2 and then you're in a stuck. But
now you can't throw the slider 0-2 every single time. No. But that's a great pitch at 0-2.
Make him prove that he can hold his water and take that pitch.
Absolutely. And there's in today's game where strikeouts are through the roof,
right.
There's a lot of guys that don't have any knowledge of the strike zone whatsoever based upon all the strikeouts that we see. So if I'm a pitcher in today's game at 0-2, I'm not going to go anywhere near the strike zone. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to throw it 5 feet away from home plate. I'm just going to go about 6 inches off the plate. Let me see if he fishes after this.
I'm interested to see what the strikeout numbers look like this year because with the 60-game schedule, all of a sudden there's a little bit of more seriousness to every game.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to see what if the hitters' approach kind of changes this season. And if we see a different, like if you took 60 games out of a normal season last year and compared the strikeout numbers to this 60-game season, how they would compare.
Last night I brought up something, and I'm glad that I've remembered this, and I'm glad you triggered my memory to this. Last night I brought something up, and this was a play that was made in game number 1, if I'm not mistaken. Less than 2 outs, runner at second base, kid has 2 strikes on him, and instead of trying to pull the ball as a right-handed batter, trying to pull the ball, trying to get a base hit into left field or whatever, the main job for anyone with less than 2 outs and a runner at second base is to hit the ball to the right side of the infield or to hit the ball to the right side, period. If you hit behind the runner to the second baseman, to the first baseman, even though you ground out, you've done your job. And this is where, in a sabermetric world, the inmates running the asylum don't understand just how good of an at-bat that is. If a guy goes 0 for 4, but in 2 of those 4 at-bats, he moved the runner from second to third base with less than 2 outs and got someone to hit a sac fly if there's 1 out or to get a clutch 2-out base hit. This guy who moved the guy from second to third did his job. And even though he's 0 for 4 in the box score, that's a damn good 0 for 4. If 2 of those 4 trips to the plate, he moved the runner from second to third, going station to station, fundamentally hitting the ball behind the runner. But you're not going to see that unless you saw the game. You look at the stats and go, oh, God, this guy went 0 for 4. This is where, when I tell people numbers aren't everything, but this is the biggest example.
WAR does do that into it because that'll go down as a sacrifice. So you'll be 0 for 4 with 2 sacks or whatever. So the WAR number will go into it, but you're right. I mean, if you're just looking at the box scores, and that's what I do every night, I look at the box score and write a story based on the box score. There could be a kid that had a lot of good at bats, but because he didn't go 3 for 4 or 2 for 4 or whatever, I don't know what he did, so he's not going to get into the story, and that's a shame.
Yeah, it was. And now, again, the backside or the negative on that is, if the guy ahead of you
Doesn't do his job.
then what you did is all for naught.
That's why I think that now when baseball is kind of changing, especially in the American League, people don't want to waste outs. And they want to say, guy on second with less than nobody out, your job is to get a base hit and score him. Your job isn't just to move him to third.
Which is wrong.
I mean, that's just how baseball has changed. No one wants to sacrifice outs anymore. You don't see a lot of, you did a good job because you ground out and moved the runner, because people want the base hit to score the runner, and then we have a runner on first with still less than 2 outs.
I've always said that there's degrees of outs. So it's like a great example, and then we're going to go to a break because we're already an hour in, and I absolutely love when we do this. The degree of outs for me, if there's a guy at second base and nobody out, the worst thing that you can do is strike out. It's the absolute worst thing you can do.
Yeah,
you didn't put the ball in play to allow the defense to hang themselves. So if you struck out with a runner at second base, the absolute worst thing that you could have possibly done. The second worst thing that you could have possibly done
Pop up in the infield.
was popped up on the infield or hit a fly ball on the left side of the outfield. It's the second worst thing that you could have done, depending on how deep the ball is in left field. Now, again, if the ball is slicing away from the left fielder and he goes to catch the ball in foul territory and the momentum is carrying him toward the fence down the left field line, guy from second base can go to third. Routine fly ball to left field, second worst thing that you can do, or a pop-up on the infield. If you hit the ball to the right side, a fly ball to right field, deep enough to get the guy to third, you've done your job. A ground ball to the right side to get the guy to third, you've done your job.
Or a little squibbler on the inside of the
or a squibbler toward the third
Bunt.
base side. A swinging bunt 45 feet up the third base line, and you get thrown out, but the guy goes to third base, you've done your job. Obviously, if you want a base hit, you want to do that. But here's the thing. If you're a pole hitter as a right-handed batter, and you're a drop-dead pole hitter and you can't possibly hit the ball to right field, you're screwed. Because now
they're not going to throw you inside at all.
Exactly. They're going to throw, if they know you're a dead pole hitter, if I'm managing or if I'm a pitching coach, there is no way on God's green earth that I'm going to give a dead pole right-handed batter something middle in. I'm going to have this guy flail at a pitch on the outside corner, because if he's a dead pole hitter, it's the summer of 6-3 and the guy at second base is staying where he is.
And then what really drives me crazy is in today's baseball, they'll also shift infielders, so you have a huge hole to the right side. If you tap it to the right side, you're going to get a base hit.
Exactly.
I mean, you don't even have to make solid contact to the right side. You're going to get a base hit because there's nobody over there. But they still they can't make, a lot of hitters, even the major leagues, can't make the adjustment. And some hitters do, and props to that.
And I wonder, the 60-game season, I wonder if the plan for every hitter, and look, here, let me peel the curtain back a little bit more. Every single batter going up to the plate has a plan.
Right. And
everyone does.
That's why I want to know if the at-bats kind of changed and the mindset of the batters kind of changed, because all of a sudden every game is a little bit more important than it would be in a 162-game season.
I wonder if the game is going to change. And if it does, damn, this could be a fun 60-game season, even though I'm not excited and I'm still pissed off that they didn't play on July the 4th. If we finally see baseball the way it was played when I was a kid, where, okay, the home run is good, don't get me wrong, but it's not the be-all, end-all, and you want to play jackrabbit-style baseball where you can steal some bases, the hit and run, hitting behind the runners. If the fundamentals of this game are brought to the forefront in this 60-game season, I am going to be the happiest person in the world.
And with Jackrabbit reminds me, John Parado brought up, I didn't know, but the Pirates got Gerard Dyson, and he's a guy that you can put in center field, nothing's going to fall. And man, is he a quick speed base runner. He's smart. He was in Kansas City for a long time. I mean, if they utilize him, then the Pirates are going to, if they get him on base, the Pirates are going to have a lot of havoc on the base paths.
Well, I mean, look, John brought up the interesting point. 2 of those regulars finished in the top 10 in hitting last year. Reynolds is a really good hitter.
So the Pirates, I mean, maybe a lot better chance than I
Well, they're
thought.
pitching.
They're pitching.
Their pitching is the problem.
Like I said, their pitchers aren't like, they're bad. There's unknowns. You don't know what they're going to do. So if their pitching goes one way and they're all of a sudden they got hot pitching, their offense is pretty set up.
And this is the difference between a 60-game season and a 162-game year. The 60-game year, if you go 2-8 in the first 10 games, you can bury yourself very quickly. I mean, you're not done.
Well,
but you better be 7-3 or 8-2 in the second sixth or the third sixth of the season, or you're screwed.
You do that, and you do all that work, and you're still at 500.
Well, true, but again, if you're at 500 with 30 games left in the season, you still have a decent chance, but you better be playing balls out in the final 30 games.
The other thing, the games against your division all of a sudden got so much more important.
Oh, God, yes.
Like, I think in 2016, when the Indians won the World Series, their division record wasn't that great. They didn't play well in the AL Central, if I remember right. Or maybe it was 17. One of those 2 years, they really didn't have a great AL Central record. And they made it up because you can make it up in a 162-game season. But in a 60-game season, if
40 of the 60 games are going to be 2/3 of your season are going to be played in your own division.
And that's tough because those teams know you like the back of their own hand.
Exactly.
So, anyone can beat anybody in division. So it's going to be fun.
This 60-game season is going to be. I'm trying not to convince myself of greatness because, look, I mean, we already have a dark cloud over our heads to begin with, and I really want this to go out without a hitch.
Let's just let this season, let us temporarily forget about all that nasty stuff that's on the horizon, please.
All right, we're going to take a timeout and be back with more. It is a phone-in Friday edition. By the way, you are welcome to call in. 330-886-0813. Gary Houstu will be calling in at 2:30. We will talk about the Chuck Houstu Memorial Golf Tournament. That is going to be held tomorrow. So hopefully, knock on wood, the weather cooperates and everyone has a fun time golfing for a great cause. We'll catch up with Gary on Friday via the phone. This afternoon at 2:30. Take a time. I'll be back with more. 330-886-0813. Back in a bit.
21
Good evening,
News.
and thank you for joining us.
Let's get right to our top
More
story
experienced reporters
tonight. A new Wilmington
At
restaurant.
GM Lordstown,
telling more local stories
We'll look at
baby
efforts
boy
to
is
curb
recovering from a broken.
around our
Good
valley
Community in
afternoon.
Niles,
We are
one
here in
Triangle Valley
Youngstown, right
business.
because you expect
important for everyone. No place like home.
more local news.
In Mercer County
Before
Court.
they become life-threatening.
21 News is our valley's #1 local news.
Welcome home to a home made homier with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. Inspiration starts at BairdBrothers.com and is turned into reality when high-quality hardwoods are delivered right to your home. Baird Brothers has the latest design trends, shiplap and skinny lap interior siding, antique oak rustic flooring, and, well, you'll find them all at BairdBrothers.com. Ordered easily, delivered conveniently, enjoyed comfortably. BairdBrothers.com.
Hello, I'm Greg Burbick with G. Burbick Farms. For the last 100 years, my family has farmed in Columbiana and Mahoning counties. I began raising cattle in 1996 with the goal of providing a better product for you and your family on the dinner table. Our grass-fed and grain-supplemented Black Angus beef are raised with no hormones, steroids, or antibiotics. We're known for our hometown-friendly service and incredible tasting products. We're locally owned and have customers across the tri-state area. Our products go from our farm to your family. Stop by our farm on New Buffalo Road or visit us on the web at gburbickfarms.com. Don't forget to like us on Facebook. G. Burbick Farms, it just tastes better.
Phone-in Friday edition of Running Point on YSNLive.com. Ron Potesta with you alongside Anthony Hardwig. Mr. DJ is in studio, and before we get to that, little update on the Memorial. We had said that Tiger through 15 was 5 over and in danger of missing the cut. Well, he has since woken up. Tiger birdied the 16th. He birdied the 17th. So he is currently 3 over, still on the fringe, would miss the cut as of now because the cut line is 2 over. However, he is $145 to the hole, about to approach his second shot from the right rough. We will update you when Tiger's round is complete, or maybe he has a miracle shot to put it near the stick. So there you go.
I am here for one purpose and one purpose only.
Okay, sir.
And that is to defend the catchers of the universe.
You should.
From umpires like yourself.
Why? If
he heard what you said about
I heard everything you said.
Okay, let me get your perspective, because you're a catcher.
Correct.
As an umpire, and I'm not talking for myself, but all umpires are pretty much the same way. If a catcher catches the ball here and the ball is already in his mitt and he pulls it over, you're getting a ball.
No. Here's the thing. Your job as an umpire is to call balls and strikes where they cross the zone.
Absolutely.
Our job as catchers are to help our pitchers and to make it deceiving for you to call balls and strikes as they enter the zone.
Absolutely.
So do not punish the catchers if they move their glove, because the way it sounded when I was listening to the program, and I was at home getting ready for the day.
By the way, you've got a full long sleeve shirt on.
These are comfortable.
Did it just become 90 degrees less outside?
Well, some of us can avoid sweat whenever it's above 58 degrees.
Okay, well, unfortunately, I'm not one of those people.
So it's for me, it's a situation where you're judging and you're saying that if a catcher moves his glove, if he frames a pitch, then you're going to call it a ball no matter where it's at.
No, I'm saying if the ball's already in his mitt and then you move it, I'm calling that a ball.
He wants everyone to be Yadier Molina.
Nobody does that. Nobody catches like that unless you're 10U. A catcher should never catch the ball and move it this way. That's not framing. You should be arrested for that. That is a bad move.
There's plenty of kids that are playing in B-League baseball right now at 14U that have done that.
That's called stabbing. So you stab. First off,
exactly.
nobody catches like this.
You shouldn't.
Nobody. You receive it. It
Exactly.
comes in, right?
Exactly.
So when you frame,
yes,
there's 4 ways that you frame. I don't have a glove on me, or else I would show you the proper way. But
do you want me to go get you one?
No. You look at the pinky, right? The pinky is where the outskirts are. If you're a catcher and it's a high strike, you take it, you catch it, and you fold your glove down like this. That is framing, because you take the baseball and you move it essentially 12 inches. So you're buying your pitcher a foot of the strike zone. To the umpire, doesn't. A lot of umpires will understand it, but they get along with their catchers because, I don't know, after all, they are the only thing standing between you and sometimes a 90-mile-an-hour fastball. So I would lean on them a little bit when they're trying to do things the right way, Mr. Potesta.
Because you can also sit back, and I've seen catchers do this, and I won't name names, but he's in my family. You don't know him. Where he's flat out said, I told my pitcher to throw a fastball, and I'm pretending like it's a changeup, and I had the ball go right by me and hit the umpire flush in the chest protector, and he just and his classic response was, "Damn it! I told that guy to throw a changeup. My bad, Blue."
And it happens. And honestly, our job is to protect you.
Sure.
So there's a little bit of catcher-umpire.
There's a great relationship there.
I mean,
absolutely.
If I was back in, what do you umpire, 14Us and things like that?
Every once in a while, 16U.
Okay, so if you're umpiring high school baseball or a 14, 16U game, and I know I have you, the number one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring a bag of Lorna Doone cookies, and I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to say, Blue, I don't know if you like these or not, but there's a bag of Lorna Doone cookies. Feel free to it. And then secondly, I'm going to establish your strike zone. I'm going to have a conversation with you. I'm going to learn your first name. and we're going to have a relationship back there to where I can have an open conversation with you between.
Governor Yoakley over here is giving
This
the
is
state
how-
of address. That, you know what? There you go.
Would it work?
Absolutely, it would.
That I know that if I want you to be in a good mood before your program, I open up the bag of M&Ms, I leave it out there in the.
I was wondering why the red, white, and blue M&Ms were out there.
Listen, I know how to keep my number one talk show host happy.
Okay, there you go.
So
All
you
right.
come in here, you're PO'd, and I go, listen, there's a bag of M&Ms right over
Well,
there.
I wasn't
Mr.
PO'd.
You weren't PO'd.
No.
But I could tell you were a little flustered. You were running a little bit late from your other job.
Here's the thing, and Fridays, and I don't know how much longer this is going to be, but as everyone has heard, I've worked with the Leetonia basketball program. This will be my second year. Who knows what I'm going to be doing this year? It's either junior high or JV. It all depends on the board approval, whatever. It's whatever. I've been working with the bigs, and for about an hour or so, I was
banging low.
Absolutely. And let's just say that even though we don't have a lot of height, we have some strong kids and old people playing the post and trying to defend the post and trying to beat young kids that are quicker. And I was reminded a couple of times, your 40 was just horrible. To and that just I was like, yeah, you're right, and then I'm inside. I'm thinking you're gonna get an elbow in the rib cage here when you come across my boundaries, whatever. You're trying to beat your guy to the spot, so you're not supposed to be hitting anyone or stuff. Well, we're trying to teach our kids to establish the post, try to establish the block, and once you're in the block, try to pass the ball out or do some up and under moves. Yeah, I got a workout. I got a serious workout today.
And then you came in, and there were M&Ms ready for you.
And I was grateful. I took about 3 handfuls, and I'm drinking Arnold Palmer, and my diabetes sugar level is probably going to be elevated, but that's okay.
Well, kudos to Brian. He heard you talking about Arnold Palmer's, and you were making you had a chemistry lab here.
Oh, I had a chemistry lab going, and I'm glad that someone picked up on, hey, this is a pretty good idea. Half iced tea, half lemonade. So I don't have to be.
You had green tea going, and it was green tea and lemonade, and everybody kind of went.
It wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't good.
It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. You don't need sweet tea.
No, you don't.
Because the lemonade is already, Now, if you use
tea.
sweet tea with lemonade, you're going to go into a diabetic coma, and you shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But unsweetened tea and lemonade is. This is a damn good drink.
But you have to admit, we're taking care of you here because you come in. Sometimes we have sandwiches. We always have something to drink.
So your strike zone is going to be prepared and taken care of.
For catchers of the universe, you have to learn how to take care of the umpires because you're going to get them a lot. And what my thing is if you take care of the umpires will take care of you. And you look at that, and quite honestly, I was heated. I'm sitting there. I'm like, damn it, Potesta. Like, you're leaving everything on the door for my catchers, and they try to they have to learn how to frame correctly. If they're doing
you have
this,
to do it in a way where you're not going to, with the naked eye, see what you're doing.
Well, umpires understand,
Yeah.
but naturally, and it's on video now because of YSN. But if you're sticking the ball here, and then you like you had made it sound like that video or that game that's at every restaurant with the arm.
Oh,
the
yeah,
claw,
yeah.
Like here and then.
Yeah, no, you're not going to be able to do that.
No, but you should not penalize somebody for trying to frame it.
Well, I mean, if you can do it.
But that's the way it sounded.
And like I said, Yadi Molina is the best.
Do you agree that
the
Yadi
best
is
to
pretty
do
much
this.
the best at framing pitches?
No, I don't, because I think there's a lot of great framers out there. They just don't have the pop times that Yadi Molina does.
Yeah.
So Yadi Molina, a catcher makes his name based on how many people he throws out or how many home runs he hits, because there's not many offensive catchers. Mike Piazza, boom, #1. But Yadi Molina throws out everybody, or used to throw out everybody, so he gets a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. He gets a little bit more attention applied to him. I mean, Russell Martin, to me, was one of the best catchers by far, up and down. Leadership, handling pitchers, receiving, framing, everything. And that's not just with him with the Pirates. I admired him from afar for a long time and still do. And catchers don't, they're the offensive linemen of a football or of a baseball team.
Yep. They're the center.
They're only noticed.
They're the
when they're not
center
doing
or
their
the
job
left
right.
tackle.
Yeah, I would say the center, more like it.
Yeah.
Because they get to call out the plays, they see everything how it's hit,
Yep.
and they can make the adjustments on the offensive line. But I would say that as a catcher, we think of ourselves as the quarterbacks because we see the entire field and we control what happens. Like if I know a guy's leaning too far off first base, I can call a pick, I can call a hold, I can call everything. And that's a part of the game that not everybody knows and understands. I know that when my wife, and I've told this story 1,000 times, my wife hated baseball until I showed her this is what a catcher does. Catcher sees everything, and you can call the game with signs. You don't have to speak a word.
Nope.
With head signals, with hand signals, with body language, everything that you do has purpose, and that's why I had so much fun being. I was never tall enough to be a quarterback, but I was just perfect size to be a trash can catcher behind home plate.
And I had the opportunity to see both Russell Martin and Yadier Molina go through the Southern League.
Mm-hmm.
And
whoever their coach was, that guy needs a raise.
John Shoemaker was Russell Martin's manager in AA ball.
I'm just talking catching coach.
And their catching coordinator on both organizations was unbelievable. But both guys had an unbelievable gift. I think Yadi was a little bit better going through the minor leagues because he had that inability to throw behind a left-handed batter and go to first base and pick guys off routinely. I just saw this and I was like, okay, now I understand why Benji and Jose aren't anywhere close to this kid's ability.
Yeah.
This kid's unbelievable. But Russell Martin in 2005, and this is the year we were supposed to be the best team in AA ball, and the Jacks were. But then they ran into Russell Martin. They ran into Kemp. They ran into who's their number one starter who didn't pan out all that well in the major leagues. But Russell Martin, James Loney, Matt Kemp, they were good.
Yeah.
They were all really good. But Russell Martin was unbelievable.
Bang for my buck, he's the best catcher that's ever lived. I mean, Pudge Rodriguez to me is the ultimate. You know, you look at him, and he wasn't even polished when it comes to framing. You talk about the receiving side of it. He was known for his cannon of an arm. You know, and he caught Nolan Ryan. He caught all these guys. He made a living from being a strong defensive catcher, blocking. Like that's another thing that people don't realize.
People don't notice like the what goes into blocking.
No, and that's you talked. This leads me to my next beef about your sabermetrics rant there about slapping and going backside a lot of times. There is a sabermetric for it. It's called quality at bats.
Okay.
So if you
WAR goes into that.
WAR goes into it somewhat, but QAB is what you're looking at when you're looking at.
So I'm not aware of any of that stuff.
So that's why.
Continue.
If what you're saying is true, if there's a runner on second base, and naturally, it also to prove a point as well, it depends where you're at in the lineup. So your number 4 guy is not going to be a slap hitter to the other side anymore, right?
No, but if he has 2 strikes on him, he better be.
Well, you're leaning on him at a number 4, number 3 hitter. Because he knows how to hit, right? This isn't a guy that you're hoping goes back door. It isn't the standard choke up on the bat with 2 strikes anymore. It's if you see a ball on the inside, you're taking it to left field. If you see a ball on the outside, and there's more of that goes on that pitchers know that you want to take it the other way.
Sure.
So if you've got 2 strikes on you and you see an outside fastball or an outside curveball, it's on them because good hitters will take it the other way and drive it to do their job.
Exactly.
But what you're going to see a lot of times from a 3 and 4 hitter is if they see something middle in, they're going to take it to left field. And that's what pitchers and catchers and coaches want because they want to roll the dice and they say, okay, if we miss, the numbers are in our favor that he's going to score anyway from second if it goes into the outfield, right? From on a hit, on a single.
It depends.
As long as it's not your catcher.
It depends. I mean, if you have a guy in left field that's got a cannon for an arm, the guy's going to be staying at third base.
I doubt it.
Okay.
If it's a rocket through the infield, I mean, if it's a dribbler.
Well, if it's a dribbler through the infield, the guy's scoring. But if it's a rocket through the infield and it gets right to the left fielder, there's no way in hell I'm moving that guy from second base home.
See,
he's going to stop at third.
I would roll the dice as long as it's not my slowest guy on the field, my DH or my catcher or whoever. Which catchers are? If you look at the B League, the catchers are getting a lot more athletic.
That's
We
true.
might have to beat that stereotype that says catchers aren't
Well,
not athletic.
the difference is at this level, you need a strong catcher to keep guys off the base paths.
Yeah.
When they move up, you're going to see them go to third base, to first base, to shortstop, become POs, outfielders. That's where you're going to get. The catcher I'm most impressed with this entire year has been Joe Roth. And,
yes.
And I think he's 15, 16 years old. He plays for Eagleware 16. He's the catcher, pitches as well, but he also plays on Nightline's 18 roster. He's from Austintown Fitch. He's going to be their everyday catcher. He was supposed to be their catcher this year, so he's going to be their everyday catcher as a junior and a senior. Kid's a stud. Has all the makings of a special young player. So I'm excited to see him. There's a lot of good catchers in the league, though. When you look across it, and that's why I'm so excited, because that's where my eyes go. I look and see what the catcher does, how they react, how they handle the pitchers. And what I got to say is how impressed I've been with the limitations that they've had with walking out and talking to their communicating to their pitchers. They've handled it. And they've handled a lot of it outside the lines, which is fantastic because it doesn't happen during the timetable, the 2-hour time limit, which saves it.
Yeah, very true.
And some of these coaches let their catchers call the game themselves, which is just adamant to. I mean, if you can do that at 16,
I think at this point they need to. You know,
Right?
I'd love to see more of it.
I get where managers want to have their finger on the pulse a little bit, but you're never going to get the ability to see what the catcher sees.
No, you got to trust your catcher.
Yep.
If you know that your catcher is worth his salt behind the plate, you got to trust him.
I-
Let him call the game.
I was very fortunate to have great coaches along my path, but I always said if a coach wants to call the game, I don't want to play for that coach. I want him to have faith in my studies. I did more studying of batters than I did in school. That's just.
Yeah, and this is one of my favorite topics. By the way, Tiger pars the last hole, so he's 3 over. He's right now in a tie for 72nd, which would put him off the top 70. The cut line's either going to be 2 or 3 over. If it's still a 2 over, he gets cut. If the cut line is a 3 over, then Tiger lives for the weekend, and then we see what happens.
Is he done?
But, yeah, he's done. He started. He ended the day 4 over, 3 over for the 2 rounds, and we'll see if the cut line's a 2 or 3 over par. There's guys, and even in the minor leagues, I'd have some guys that had notebooks, not the large, but the small reporters type of notebooks,
Yeah.
and they would have them in their stall in the locker room, and if we saw a pitcher for the second or third time. Second time, there'd be a little bit of information. Third time, there'd be about 4 pages worth of information. And these guys would be going through this stuff. And hour or so after they're done with BP, you'd have the hitting coach talking to their hitters, their approach for the night based upon what that pitcher has done historically against them this year, based on what this guy's done during the course of the year. Pitchers would have their own meetings. It was absolutely fantastic looking at all of that to see just how well a minor league organization is run. And guys have notes. Albert Bell was notorious for being an asshole, but he was notorious for having notes.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, he had piles of reporters' notebook type of notes on every single pitcher in the American League, and it was at his disposal.
You can imagine how good these hitters would be from back when, the ones that we absolutely are mesmerized by still, if they had the technology.
Oh, if Ted Williams had the technology today, good God. Oh, DiMaggio, Musial.
But listen. Those kind of guys were guys that played baseball, and then they went out. They weren't all in on baseball. When they played, they were all in, but they were out to have a good time after.
Yeah, Mantle was.
These guys now don't have time to go out and have good times after.
No, it's not that. They have plenty of time, but they're enamored with video games.
Well, it's not video games. They're like as soon as they get on the plane to fly to another city, if you look, They have iPads. Every single one has an iPad.
Sure.
And it's the job of someone in that organization to make sure they have their at-bats from that particular night. And they also have the starting pitchers that are projected to start for the next 3 games.
Oh, yeah.
And they are studying it on the plane.
Absolutely they are.
And it's incredible because they are so dedicated to their craft. And now you guys talked about the 60-game season. Every game counts. I think you're going to see contact is king this year.
I hope so.
Because I think you're going to see the power numbers down and the batting averages up because the contact matters. At this point, because we talked about this yesterday on the Power Hour. If you win a championship, is it tarnished because it's only 60 games? It's not your fault.
No.
You still won a championship.
There's no tarnishment in any way, shape, or form.
I've always said if you handle a 60-game season better than everybody else, then that's props to you.
Absolutely. It's still a championship.
It would be the same way with the bubble that's going on in Orlando. As far as I'm concerned, whoever wins that championship is going to be probably more deserving than most champions because you didn't have home court advantage.
I think that is the sport that's going to fall. Zion left the bubble yesterday.
Well, he left because he's got family issues right now.
Quote, family issues.
Well,
that's what they quoted, family issues. The NBA moved the entire schedule around so it benefited Zion. So they could have one of their marquee guys, and now he leaves the bubble because of family issues. Does he come back? Does he have to be quarantined for 2 weeks?
He'll be quarantined for a few days. And then we'll.
So how is he
go
different
from
than
there.
anybody in Florida then? Because don't they have to be quarantined for 14 days?
I don't think any player has to be quarantined for 14. I think it's more closer to a week. But,
So
again,
you look at that, and when he comes back, he's out for a week.
The first game is what, the 31st?
Yeah.
So you're 2 weeks away. All right. So
play
if
8
he comes
games.
back in 4 days, that's the 21st. A week off is the 28th. You got 3 days to prepare for the first game.
All I'm saying is they are one major player away. And I
Of
think
course.
We all know that major player. Because if you lose Zion and then you lose, I don't know, somebody that used to be in Cleveland that wants
you
to be in
lose
Hollywood.
LeBron, now you're toast.
I didn't say any names.
Yeah.
You did. But if you lose somebody like that, why are you even tuning in?
You lose the Greek Freak.
Well,
game's over.
The Greek Freak then becomes the favorite to win the NBA championship, does he not? If you don't have a LeBron, you don't have Zion Williamson.
Milwaukee's one of the best teams in the NBA, period. But if the Greek Freak leaves,
But then also imagine if you lose like Kawhi Leonard out of the Clippers.
Absolutely.
All of a sudden,
that guy.
LeBron's got no competition in the West.
He's not. I don't see Kawhi Leonard as a superstar. I know people do. I don't see him as. I just don't. I don't see him as a superstar. He's not that guy. Like LeBron, superstar. Greek Freak, superstar.
Yeah, I think he doesn't have the superstar persona because he doesn't really do anything. But on the court,
he's
absolutely a superstar. When you just break down his
I
basketball.
don't even know how you describe him. He's just like.
He's one of the best two-way players in the game. That'll be my best way to describe him.
He's like a player's version of Bill Belichick, where he never talks to the media, and if he does, it's really short and.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of meat to it.
Yeah.
He's not that flashy.
We're on to San Antonio.
That's it.
Yeah, we're on to San Antonio.
Do you think he ever wishes he didn't leave San Antonio? That's where he started, right?
Yeah.
Do you ever think he wishes, like, man, we could have done something special down in San Antonio?
Well, I mean, there's
probably before he won the championship with Toronto.
I know he won that championship, and I know they probably don't win without him, but it's one of those things, like, I always wonder if players regret leaving their spot.
The one that I would think even more would be the trio of Harden,
in Houston?
Durant,
Oklahoma City.
and
City,
Westbrook.
Yeah.
And they broke that trio up.
But listen, those are three guys that are ego egos.
Oh, of course. Absolutely.
Unbelievable egos with those. I don't think that Kawhi has that big. I mean, he's a guy that took a shoe contract from New Balance.
He's turned New Balance into a pretty good shoe.
I don't think he had anything to do with it.
No,
I think New Balance was like, that guy. Like,
we'll take him.
And I think that the perfect commercial for that would be him cutting the lawn in some New Balance ones or whatever they call them. Like that's what I knew. I like New Balance baseball shoes because they're out of Boston. They're based on baseball shoes and really comfortable dad shoes. I don't think I'd ever buy a New Balance basketball shoe, to be honest with you. I don't think I'd ever be like, man,
I don't
It's a
think I've
good-looking
ever
shoe.
owned a pair of New Balance basketball shoes, but I know the New Balance shoes are the most comfortable pair of shoes I've ever worn. Adidas a close second.
Yeah, it's hot and cold. It just depends on
Don't
what.
tell Quinn that.
Yeah, Quinn is not a fan of Adidas shoes. He won't wear them. Told me
Really?
straight up. Yeah, like if we had uniform shoes that I bought everybody a pair of Adidas because of our contract,
Yeah.
he said he wouldn't wear them. He said he put them in his.
Wow. What is he, a Nike?
He's a Nike
Loves
snob.
Nike.
Say, I can't wear a pair of Nikes.
Because of what?
I
Reasoning,
I don't like the fact that those shoes were made by people making 2 cents an hour.
They all are.
No, not New Balance. New Balance is made in America, 90% of it.
So is Nike.
Well,
I can argue that all day.
technically, yes, but most of their shoe is.
So are cars. You know, you look at they say, oh, it's made in Detroit, baby.
No, I know.
And then you open up your hood and you go, wait, this
Yeah.
is out of where?
Yeah. This isn't out of
Taiwan?
Detroit. This is out of Mexico.
Yeah.
No, this isn't out of It's. We've now become incorporated worldwide. My
now,
brother,
if you
my
would've
brother does. He works with machines.
Yeah.
He's a really cool business, and he's able to get contracts with a bunch of different companies to have machines that do a lot of really cool stuff. And he has relationships with companies all over the world. And I looked at him, and I was like, well, when the hell did Buy American stop? And he goes, well, we're all synergized with everyone in China, Mexico, and all the other countries.
It all comes down to profitability.
Sure.
You know, and I get it from a capitalism standpoint. I can appreciate it. Do I like it? Not all the time, but it's one of those things where, you know, we try to support American every time we can. But
Yeah.
it's hard to do that
If
anymore.
you
because
get a part from China that costs 25 cents, and here it would cost $5.
there's a big discrepancy.
It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. Now, if you want to say and stay with the I'm going to make everything here argument, then you have to, as a capitalist, if this costs me $16 to make instead of $8 to make, now I'm going to be charging about $8 more,
Yep.
If not more,
If not
for the
more,
product because I need my profit margin.
Yeah, you want your 50% markup, as any business does, plus. But that's my thing. Is like, and that's why I love, and this is going to sound really crazy, that's why I love wooden bats. Because wooden bats are made in America.
Yep.
You've got a great company just down the road from us in Saber.
Saber.
And they are unbelievable with what they are able to put out. Robbie does a great job with his partner. You can order whatever color bat you want, whatever stain you want, and they're really good. And then there's
Quality bat.
There's more than one around here, but Sabercat's the one that I look at and I go, these guys had one of them in the pros. They had
Scooter Jeanette is a big believer in Saber.
And it's Sabercat.
Sabercat,
Yeah, so it's
yeah.
one of those where, but Scooter, I don't think Scooter's playing this year.
No,
hasn't been picked up.
Shoot, he is somewhere. The name escapes me where he is.
Yeah, so it's one of those, like, it's unfortunate, but I mean, you're in the show, and just like anybody, like, if you get to the show, you say, I was in, even if it was for a cup of coffee, you got there and we didn't, you know. So the stories that come out of that, it's like watching Bull Durham. So it's awesome. I love it. I love local bats, local stories that make it on a big stage. One of my best friends is and mentors is one of the main guys for the Pro Football Hall of Fame and is bringing it back stronger than ever, which I absolutely love. So local stories like that, especially in sports, motivate me. So I don't care where my shoes are made as long as they're comfortable, but I'm going to make sure that my baseball bat that I have in tow is going to be a American-made product.
I got a friend of mine who pitched in independent ball with Elmira, and he was a pitcher there, Chris Totten. Not bad.
Mm-hmm.
He gave up a lot of home runs. When the running joke with him was if the wind was blowing out, I was like, well, there goes 2 home runs for the night. But he works for a company that was just starting out when he started working for him, Academia, out of New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And they make some really good baseball apparel.
Yeah.
They make some really good gloves, bats, the whole 9 yards. And they were trying to get Trout to be on board with us because Mike is a New Jersey guy. So, but they've gotten, I want to say about a dozen pretty big, substantial players that are in the academia family.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's my favorite thing about being a business and partnerships and things. I mean, and by the way, before I would be digress to say this or remiss to say this, but we have a new partnership with K Squared Marketing, which two of the most empowered young ladies that you will ever meet from this area, from Springfield, Ohio.
Nice.
And they're going to be handling a lot of our community efforts, a lot of our sales efforts. Really excited about that. They're local. They're empowered. They're passionate about not only YSN because they were fans before they joined our team, and that gets me jacked. That gets me excited. But they're so good at what they do, and so if you're out there and you're a business and you're looking to be part of it, they're the ones you're going to be talking to from the corporate level because they are going to be cleaning house and doing big things not only for K Square Marketing, but this is a part of their brick. But they're a big part of our brick as we do brick by brick and move towards the future. So wanted to make sure that we gave them a shout out as well. So welcome to the team, K Squared.
Hey, have you taken the trip through the Louisville bat?
I've not. I want to.
Yeah.
I want to. Have you?
My parents did. On their way back home from Florida, my mom was like, let's go to the Louisville bats. Let's see how these bats are made. She was like, unbelievable. So this was absolutely incredible how they do this. They showed it from station to station to station. She goes, now we wanted a bat, but it costs a little bit too much to have
$90.
it. Yeah, it's like $90 or $100 to have your name put on a
Engraved,
bat,
yep.
and all that other stuff, and they didn't want to spend that money. But she said it was absolutely incredible how they do that. Many years ago, and Steve Leslie would know about this. This was the infamous trip to Marietta, Georgia, where I missed the bus and had to take a flight back home with Steve Leslie and Scott Knox, and they'll tell a different version of the story to make me look bad. Whatever, I don't care. But the Louisville Slugger had a deal with them where every single player, every single person that brought their team got a little tiny Louisville Slugger bat, said the year, NABF World Series, Marietta, Georgia.
Very cool.
That I have one of those upstairs in my dad's office. I think I gave it to him, but a little teeny tiny bat.
Yeah,
and
mini
it's a Louisville Slugger bat. He has the Louisville Slugger emblem on it. I'll have to bring it in on Monday. It was a really cool item for all of the kids that took part in the NABF World Series down there.
I did an All-Star game at Jacobs Field when it was Jacobs Field.
Yeah.
My senior year, All-Star, a bunch of the kids from around here. I was the one representing East Palestine. Dean Stokes represented Columbiana. Jimmy Neild. I don't know if any of these names ring any bells, but we were all able to be on the same team, Columbiana County's team, in the All-Star game. And we all received one of those mini bats, but it said Jacobs Field, the
Nice.
NEOBCA All-Star game. Very cool. But those are really cool gifts that nobody ever throws away, right? Like,
oh, absolutely.
Here I am, 35 years old. This game happened 17 years ago, and my little one grabbed it and was like, "I got a bat," because it's her size, right? And I was like, "Don't you do that? Don't you like that's take this Jason Kendall mini bat. You can have this one." But it's those are the gifts, and baseball guys get that. You know, baseball people get that because those just don't come out. Those are specially made for that event, and you can never have those replicated.
Yeah,
never. So I'm glad you said that because I'm a huge collector of those. Like whenever we go, so if we go to a Pirates game. Or an Indians game, or whatever they're going to call themselves, the girls will get each a bat, and then we'll put the name or the engraved on it. So.
I took 2 bats from Matt Craig, who is no longer in baseball. He's doing in business for himself. 2 of his official at bats, didn't have his name on it or anything. And Mark Franken was in a 40-plus year group, and I said, "All right, have at it, but don't break them." Oh, he was having a blast with those bats.
That's awesome.
I was like, "You got to give him the chase, let him swing." And the 18-year-olds, he goes, "No, they're too heavy for him."
Yeah.
Because it was a good 33, 34-inch bat. So there you go. Rich, you're on YSN Live. What's up, brother?
Good afternoon, young men.
What's up, man?
Being an air-conditioned gypsy, of course.
If we put the air conditioning on around here, that means that that you hear all kinds of weird noises, and we don't want that. So what's
Well,
on your
you're
mind?
already you're on air, so you are officially an air-conditioned gypsy, just in a different form.
Well, you're hearing weird noises with me on the air, but that's neither here nor there. What's on your mind, brother?
Okay, a little trip down memory lane here for you guys. I was working for an Italian landscaping firm up in Cleveland when I first relocated there back in the mid-'90s. And they had all huge property, and commercial and residential, but residential was enormous. One of the residents was Bob Feller, lives outside of Chagrin Falls. And on Fridays we would go there, and he always had big pictures of iced tea with us outside for us on a table, in the shade and stuff. And a couple times he'd come out and spend a little bit of time with us, not too much. But that's when CC was coming up through single A ball. And Charlie Emanuel had promoted him to the big leagues. And I asked his opinion on it. He goes, he's all right. And he said, but it's going to be years until he could develop that go-to pitch. He said, until these young guys figure it out, all they do is throw a ball. They're not pitchers, they're throwers. Pretty awesome.
Oh, and he's 100% right as well. Now, Sabathia did turn out to be a pretty good pitcher. He's borderline Hall of Famer. Will probably get into the Hall of Fame. I don't know if it'll be on his first trip or not, but he's certainly worthy of nomination for sure.
Oh yeah, but his point of view, and there are a lot of expletives there that I cannot say on the air, but he wasn't smooth at relating things.
Yeah,
If you know what I mean.
he had a potty mouth. Yeah, he swore like a sailor, and whenever I spoke with him, and it was like 2 or 3 times, he was always in a grumpy mood.
Well, that's just his that's his mantra. That's his demeanor.
Yeah.
He was never really a jovial guy. Probably 2 or 3 times we got to sit and BS with him for a few minutes while we were cooling off. But that's just the way he approached things, and that was him, And he was the same way on the mound. Man, that guy had a game face that would turn to crack and be on stone.
It's amazing what Feller could have done had we not had World War II. Now, obviously, 4 years out of his life, out of his baseball life, but we're grateful for that because he and a large number of major league players sacrificed a solid number of their years of baseball to make sure that we were able to keep Nazism away from the United States, and forever grateful for that.
AKA Williams and Mays.
Sure. Well, Mays was the Korean War, but Ted Williams, Joe DiMaggio, Hack Wilson, a bunch of other players. They were fighting in Japan or the Pacific Theater. They were fighting in the European theater, but a lot of major leaguers that lost 3 and 4 years of their career because of World War II, and we're grateful for them.
You bring up Hack Wilson. What, he's like 5'4",
yeah,
about 180 pounds.
Well, I think he was a little bit bigger than that, but the man hit the ball a country mile.
Yeah, he was built like Hulk Hogan, only on a smaller frame.
Yeah, no doubt.
Pretty awesome. Okay, I got a question for you. 2 questions. So when you're doing a pitch count in the major leagues, and you get a pitcher who's holding a guy on first day for his entire 5 or 6 innings, he throws 15 times at first base. Okay, are those considered pitch counts?
No.
No,
that's not included.
Interesting. Okay. Number 2, what happens to a guy who opts out this year? A lot of the big stars in MLB, they're deciding not to play, and I understand. What happens to them?
They're not getting paid.
They don't get paid.
They're not getting paid. No, they won't get paid unless there is a good enough reason. They won't get paid, and then they'll just come back for spring training 2021.
God willing, there is one. All right, last observation. I'm watching sports news on any of the local networks. That's about all I can tolerate because the media is just too crazy for me. But I'm watching, especially on the high school level, you'll see you'll have each local channel keying in on a local high school football program, and the coach is out there with a mask on and doing his interview. And then you get the stud quarterbacks and the stud wide receivers and the studs, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. They get on the screen, no masks. Okay.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay. Now, this is, I'm not saying this is the problem, but this is the attitude of the younger generation. I find it appalling, not that they're not wearing a mask, but they are exempt from following instruction.
Well, and then
just an observation, Ron.
Okay, no, I get it. I get what you're saying, Rich, and I appreciate the call, brother.
All right, catch you.
Man, see ya. And it brings up an interesting point. All I would say to that is, they're doing the work, and they're trying to work out and whatnots. Should they wear a mask? You can make an argument one way or the other for that.
You should not wear one while you're working out. I mean, because that's just
yeah.
They're not ventilated.
It would be tough.
That's why you got to work out. 6 feet. So that's one thing. You don't break that rule where you're working out right next to someone else. But it's tough because then you see those guys on TV. They take their mask down to do an interview, and then that's all you see is them with their mask off, and you assume that they've spent all the practice without a mask on.
Yeah, the coaches need to keep that mask on.
You don't see them, every play they're off in practice putting their masks back up.
Yes.
And things like that, because all you see on TV is they do their interview, they do their mask down.
Yeah, and then,
you're not going to interview someone with their mask on.
No, actually, they need to. That needs to happen because now you're bringing in to Rich's point. If a guy doesn't have his mask on, everyone's just going to assume, well, what the hell? I mean, why aren't you wearing a mask? You're coaching. Why aren't you wearing a mask? I understand both ends of it.
I mean, DeWine doesn't even wear a mask when he's talking into his press conference.
That's true, that's true, and that's where I think that's where some
when
of the
talk like this, you really can't understand what I'm saying.
Well, you can, but it's muffled.
Right. So,
Now, it's like today. I was just in Leetonia.
You can do that with where you set up the camera and no one's within 6 feet of the guy. He's just talking into the camera with his mic on.
Yeah.
So you're not breaking social distancing rules.
Yeah. Now, I was just in Leetonia. The coach doesn't have to wear a mask. The players, they're not wearing a mask, but they're working out. They're working on their craft. The coaches are wearing a mask. It's tough unless you have a distinct voice to tell everyone through a mask, hey, this is what we're going to do. And there are times when a coach has to pull the mask down from his nose and tell everyone, as long as everyone is 6 feet away, further than 6 feet away from him, you pull the mask down and you tell everyone, hey, this is what we want you guys to do. This is how we want to go. Protocol here for the next 10, 15 minutes. Put the mask back up over your nose and let's go. For me personally, I don't need to have a mask taken down to shout out instructions. People are going to know.
You got the loud voice.
Yeah, people are going to know. I have a loud voice. People are going to know whether I have a mask on, whether I don't have a mask on. You're going to hear what my directions are. But there are other coaches that don't have a loud, distinct voice, or they don't have the projection in their voice to where they're going to have to put the mask down and make sure that the kids are nowhere near him or her to make your direction known, and then you quickly put the mask back up over your nose.
And that's, it's a crazy thing. World has changed, and we're going to have to change with it.
Until we have a vaccine, welcome to what we're going to be doing for a while.
Right.
And I understand people don't like the idea of wearing a mask. I get it. Trust me, I wear a mask when I'm out now. And obviously I don't want to wear a mask here, but if I have to, if Governor DeWine had said on Wednesday, we're mandating all masks, guess what? You and me are wearing a mask on Friday, and we're doing the show from here with a mask on. It is what it is. But I mean, I'm wearing my mask a lot more now. If I'm in a grocery store, if I'm somewhere where I know people are going to be close to me, or I'm in an area where there's going to be a lot of people, I got to put the mask on, because at the end of the day, and this is going to be selfish, but at the end of the day, I want my sports. I want my football. I want my baseball season, even though I'm pissed at Major League Baseball. I want my 60-game season. I'm intrigued by what the 60-game season brings. And if I can do a small part to make sure that I'm doing my small part to make sure that people are going to be safe, then okay, I have to do that. I'm not going to. I don't want to do something where, even though it may not just be me, but if there's enough of people that have the thought process of, well, I don't need to wear a mask, then we're going to go back to the numbers that we had before. And that will either slow or stop the process, and I don't want that. Because we had a lot of stuff on the horizon, no pun intended, even though the Horizon League is taking a hiatus until October. The Missouri Valley Football Conference still hasn't said anything in terms of canceling the season, so YSU football is still on the mark for a September 5th opener against Akron, and hopefully...
I would. This is right now. My guess is most of the conferences in football are going to go conference only. That way, they can have control over their protocols and they can have control over what goes on. It's just, I think that's the way we're stemming. And I don't think that non-conference game with Akron is going to happen.
And if we were to sit back, and this was where we talked about this in hour number one, if you had a commissioner, right, and not the milquetoast guy from the NCAA, Emmerich, who just likes to talk so he can hear himself. If you had a commissioner that had the nuts and bolts of how to properly oversee everyone, not just the Power 5 conferences, but oversee everyone, and more importantly, give guidance to every single conference and have uniformity, I think that we would be in a better situation. Now, unfortunately, because we don't have that, quote, commissioner, and we have a spokesperson that doesn't know his head from a hole in the ground, you have anarchy, where conferences are going to do their own thing, which there's a reason why the Power 5 conferences are looking at the NCAA and saying, you don't give anything to us anymore.
That's why I was really happy when Mac Brown basically said that, because finally someone said it. Like, someone said we need uniformity in college sports. It's like everyone was afraid to step on the toes of the NCAA. Finally, a highly respected college coach came out and said, we need uniformity. We don't need these conferences running around doing their own thing. It's going to hurt college football, and it probably will.
And I just wonder if Mac Brown was, I don't know, thinking that maybe he would be the guy. You couldn't be. You could do. You could do a lot worse. If you were to pick Mac Brown, you could do an awful lot, worse job.
I think a lot of the coaches in the NCAA would like that, because he's so highly respected. There aren't a lot of people that don't like Mac Brown.
Yeah, and if you were to get a committee filled with coaches or former coaches that know exactly the ins and outs of what the particular sport is, I think that the NCAA would be a much better service to the conferences if you had that commissioner and the board not filled with stuffed shirt guys that don't have a clue how college athletics work, but rather former coaches that understand the ins and outs of what is going on, and have a commissioner that has the foresight to bring all of these conferences together and say, okay, we have one uniform policy, and this is how we're going to do it. And it doesn't matter if you're an elite conference like the Southeastern Conference or a mid-major like the Horizon. The the Horizon's going to be just as important as the Southeastern Conference, even though talent-wise, not even close.
Well, you opened up kind of a box because you said former coach, but then you have to wonder, are you going to have one commissioner for all the sports, or is each sport going to have their own commissioner? Because do you want a former football coach making decisions about volleyball, tennis, track, cross country?
I think a commissioner that understands.
So do you want a commissioner for every sport?
No, I want one commissioner, but I also want him to have a board within each sport.
Okay.
Like 3 or 4 people within each sport.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, that's a lot of people that we're talking about because there's a lot of sports.
If you don't, that question's going to be raised. Why is this guy that coached football making a decision about what we should do with
Exactly,
volleyball? You know
exactly. That's where, if you're bringing in someone who's respected like Mac Brown, but he doesn't know anything about volleyball, okay, you're the commissioner, but if you have a volleyball board filled with people, 3 or 4 people, that know the ins and outs of that particular sport, and they're going to be the ones that are going to advise you a direction, I'm fine with that. The problem is, would the NCAA be willing to, how many sports are we talking, 20? So we're talking 80 new employees, and we're talking 1 commissioner, and all of them are going to be making close to 6 figures, if not more. So is the NCAA willing to put together about $100 million to restructure their sports to have 1 commissioner and a board of 3 to 4 people in each sport?
It'd be a lot cheaper if those board members are made up of college coaches and their salary just goes up a little bit, like a high school athletic director that's also a coach. I know that doesn't happen anymore because most boards won't allow it. But back in the day, you could be both. It's like a little tweak up to your salary, so they're not paying them an extra. You're not getting a new guy off the street and paying them, a $60,000 salary. They're just paying a coach a little bit more than they would get paid normally.
No, I wouldn't want any part of a coach with this. An active coach. There's no way I would want that. You don't want an active coach on the board? No,
because there are already active coaches that are on like selection committees.
Yeah, see, for me, that's no, absolutely not. Because now, when something goes awry, people are the first thing they're going to do is look at this person and their conference just got some favoritism because this guy's on the board. No, I want people that were formally in this business.
If the board is made up of people from different conferences and that board can't show favoritism to one conference because it's made up of a guy from the ACC, maybe a guy from the Mountain West, and a guy from the MAC. That way, okay, we have 3 guys, 3 conferences. There's no possible way we can show favoritism to the ACC because the other 2 people aren't going to let it make that decision in the board. You start to. I
understand where you're coming from,
and that's. I mean, the football selection committee. There's always a couple current coaches on that. So, are you a fan of that, or do you not?
No, I don't want any. I don't want any current coaches on a selection committee because to me, okay. I mean, I understand they give perspective that. You're going to go from a coaching standpoint. Yeah, this team is really good.
I like the people that were in football this year making a decision about who's the best teams in football. Not someone that coached 5 years ago or 10 years ago. I want someone that coached this year and saw football this year making a decision who was the best team in football.
Yeah, but they don't know. I mean, they're in the game, but you can have an expert that used to be a coach but is watching the game and is still in the game, whether it be a pregame show as an analyst or I just, to me, would rather see an analyst or someone who is still within the game but not currently coaching.
Remember when Condoleezza Rice was on the...
Condoleezza Rice knows more about college football than 99% of the men. That is a flat-out fact. That woman knows her football. And I know a lot of people sat back and said, what the hell is this woman doing on the board? No. Condoleezza Rice knows her football. That woman knows the ins and outs of the game. You bring up a subject that 30, 40 years ago, you wouldn't have women in the places
Well, you wouldn't have-
that
you
they
wouldn't
are
have-
now.
You wouldn't even have women in the reporters.
Yeah. Mandy Bell wouldn't be doing her job right now if it were 30 or 40 years ago. And I got news for you. Mandy Bell is really good at what she does. Erin Andrews, as a sideline reporter, is really good at what she does. Yes, she's attractive and she's easy on the eyes. Okay, wonderful. She is really good at what she does. That's why she's still employed by Fox.
To name another, I mean, Kay Adams does a wonderful job.
Oh,
on
Kay
Good
Adams
Morning
is
Football.
ridiculously good.
And her, I mean, she's not just a pick a girl and make her a host. I mean, she knows she's a part of that show. She has input on it. She's not just asking the analyst, question. She has input too, and sometimes, more times than other, I agree with her more than I agree with the other guys on the.
And the other person, and she's a friend of the show. She's been on the show, and she'll be on the show before the season starts. Aditi Kinkabula. Aditi does a fantastic job. I'll listen to her because her knowledge of football. That's one of the reasons why we have the guests that we have on. Is their knowledge.
I think Mina Kimes is a great writer for ESPN.
Absolutely, she is.
So there are a lot of women in the sports world doing their thing.
Yeah, and 30, 40 years ago, unfortunately, they would have never seen the light of day. And that's why we celebrated the passing of Phyllis George. She's one of the people that broke that glass ceiling. Lisa Olson, who went through hell as a reporter for the Boston Herald, is one of the reporters that had to have all of the crap that she went through in the 80s, but she stood tall and she's still within the industry today. Christine Brennan, who does an outstanding job for USA Today, they've opened the door for reporters and commentators and broadcasters today that do a bang-up job.
Beth Mowins a couple years ago was the first woman to do Monday Night Football. She's a great play-by-play.
She is
commentator.
Yeah, she definitely is.
So we could go on and on about the list of women in sports that do a fantastic job.
Yeah, and a couple of friends of mine who have a podcast based out of Cleveland that do an incredible job. Brittany Mollis and I'm gonna go her maiden name because she's a Latonia kid. Bree Duco. They have a podcast called That's What B Said, and it is a fantastic show. I don't always agree with them, especially Brittany.
But that's what's great about sports.
But exactly, they do a fantastic job. It's a great show. It's a great listen to. And every Wednesday they hit it out of the yard.
Where you do it right, and other people on social media, a lot of people on social media do it wrong. Is you don't agree with them because they're sports. You don't agree with their sports opinion. Other people don't agree with them just because they're women.
Which is
they don't think that
bothers me.
If you ever want to shake your head, just go to a ESPN Amina Kimes type person. Go to their Twitter feed, and anytime they post something that's opinionated about a football player or whatever, just look at the comments.
Yeah,
and it'll be like, oh, geez.
Well, you didn't play the game,
right?
What do you know about this? No, shut up, Dale.
Sarah Spain's another really good one on ESPN.
330-886-0813. Back in a bit. It is a phone-in Friday edition of Running Point on YSNLive.com.
And all details. Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods is one fine ride. Perfect cornering, superb handling, sporty and stylish, power to spare, plus awesome mileage. Yeah, jaw-droppingly beautiful lines and well appointed with luxurious trim. Put more oomph in your life and start beholding the molding. Find your home's fine hardwood at BairdBrothers.com.
storm season.
I think we're under the gun for some heavy storms over the next couple of hours.
And Storm Tracker 21 is ready.
This is probably the one we're keeping a closer eye on
air.
And locally, we're going to have a lot of eyes on our area.
Online.
All right, let's talk high-risk futurecast and the timing of this weather.
On social media and on our app.
Stay in the showers. I'm keeping my eye on in parts of Columbiana County.
Stay ready with Storm Tracker 21.
The severe weather threat now through around sunset this evening.
Hi everyone, this is DJ Yoakley with Your Sports Network. We appreciate your support of YSN and welcome you to the YSN family. Our broadcast streams are brought to you live at no cost to you by sponsors that are local to this community. Without the vision and generosity of our sponsors and partners, we would not be able to bring this game to you today. So please support the great businesses and leaders that are making this game possible. And if you're a business in need of great advertising and sponsorship opportunities, feel free to head over to our site for more information on the right fit for you. We are local, we are loyal, and we are live. We are YSN.
Phone in Friday edition of Running Point on YSNLive.com. Ron Potesta with you alongside Anthony Hartwig. 330-886-0813, the number to call. Have we decided what day we're going to be doing our baseball predictions? Is it going to be Wednesday of next week or Friday?
Do you want to? Either way. Right before the season starts, you might want to do Wednesday in case something goes horribly awry between Wednesday and Friday. I hate to think like
let
that.
Let me ask. Okay, and now that you've brought up the negative Pandora's box, let me ask.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Oh, no, it's all right. It's all right. July 23rd.
Baseball has me a cynic in the way baseball has been going the last couple of months.
Yeah, no kidding. And by the way, we've talked about this. Major League Baseball needs to, and John Parado brought it up. Major League Baseball needs to either have no charge for the extra innings package, or at the very least slash it in half to make it 50% off. But more importantly, and we brought this up, the archaic blackout rules that exist in Major League Baseball, the fact that we are not going to have fans in the stands this year, why the hell are we even still talking about the blackout rules? Get rid of the blackout rules and allow Major League Baseball to, extend an olive branch to the people that are your future, not just the kids, but the clientele that are actually had to put up with your crap for the last 12 months. You might want to extend that olive branch to those people and say, hey, we feel your pain, or as President Clinton once said, I feel your pain.
I feel your pain.
I feel your pain. There's the blackout policy.
There's our.
Not going to have a blackout policy, and here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you half off on the MLB extra innings package, and I'll throw Monica in just for the sake of argument. Well, Bill wouldn't say the last part, but you know what I'm talking about. Look, I think that it would be a fantastic idea if you were to sit back and say, Commissioner Manfred, we need to extend an olive branch to these people, and we need to get as many eyes on our product, because here's the thing, and you and I speculated about this. There's a pretty good chance the game of baseball, at least for this year, is going to be radically different in terms of the way the game is played. It's going to take a turn backwards towards the game that I grew up and fell in love with as a kid in the 70s, where you weren't going to see guys striking out over 100 times or high hundreds or 200s in a season, where home runs are not really through the roof, but batting averages are significant. You're not going to be swinging out of your ankles or your feet anymore. You're actually going to be playing this game in a much more cerebral type of format. This might be a perfect way to indoctrinate all of the people that, like myself, who are old and remember baseball the way it was played 30, 40, 50 years ago. Hey, here's an opportunity to go old school. we're going to give all of you people an opportunity to see the game the way we're going to present it for the 60-game season. If you give everyone the entire access, no blackout policy, half off or free on the MLB extra innings package, and you mic up as many guys as humanly possible, mic up some umpires, mic up some coaches on the base paths, mic up some players, mic up some managers, and you do things in a media-friendly aspect, I think we're on to something here. I really do.
And I'm excited because Thursday, ESPN gets first dibs on the first 2 games of the season because I think there are 2 games slated for Thursday, then everyone else plays.
Yeah, Washington's going to play New York in our nation's capital.
For Washington versus New York.
I think it'll be fun.
That might be a World Series preview.
It could be. It could be. Although I don't think the Yankees even win their own division.
I know you're feeling about the Yankees,
but the Nationals and the Braves, and don't forget the Mets, because the Mets are going to be a fun team to watch. That's a 3-team race, and Philadelphia is that quiet schoolhouse bully that hasn't really said much of anything. That could very well, they could very well throw some stuff.
They're not going to beat you up, but they're going to make you question everything that you thought was real.
Yeah, and then the second game is San Francisco and L.A., and it doesn't get much better than that. It's a rivalry that dated back in the Big Apple up until 1957, when both owners decided to move their collective teams out of New York to San Francisco and Los Angeles, respectively.
But it'll be interesting to see how the worldwide leader in sports kind of handles that broadcast and what they try to do with it and what they want MLB to kind of help them with and what that broadcast looks like, because they can do things that other sports channels can't do because of their resources and the people that work for them. So it'll be interesting.
They have one of my favorite guys that calls a baseball game, John Shambi.
Okay.
John is insanely talented. And he doesn't get the pub that Vasgersian or some of the other guys in the national level might get.
Yeah, is he their Sunday Night Baseball guy, or does he do their midweek games?
I think Boog does the midweek games.
Yeah, okay.
I'll tell you another guy that if ESPN is going to start employing baseball broadcasters, and he came from a baseball background, even though he's doing in the Southeastern Conference, he's doing football and basketball, and T. Hart is a friend of the show. Tom Hart is a damn good baseball broadcaster. He was in the minor leagues, we were blessed in the Southern League with Tom Hart and Joe Block, who are now in Major League Baseball. Ben Ingram, who was in Mississippi with the Braves, is doing their pregame show and occasionally fills in and does baseball games. Kid down in Mobile, Wayne Randazzo, is the second banana to Howie Rose in New York with the Mets. At one point in time, the Southern League had a who's who of future Major League Baseball broadcasters in that stable.
It's minor league announcers are like minor league baseball. It's almost something that called up and that's how it works.
Yeah, and Tom Hart is a really good baseball broadcaster.
I think my memory. I think Mark. Now his name just escaped me. I had it while you were talking. The Sunday Night Baseball guy for ESPN. I couldn't think of his name. Carl Ravitch.
Carl Ravitch, yeah.
The Sunday Night Baseball.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how they're going to split this up.
So that means we have to do our predictions on Wednesday because the season technically starts on Thursday.
Yeah, the season starts on Thursday, so we can probably do our predictions on Wednesday. I mean, look, I have a general idea of who I think is going to be in the playoffs, and I mean, here's the thing I think everyone is going to have to understand, and then we're going to take a time out and talk about something else. In a 60-game season, you're not going to see someone winning a division by 20 games or 10 games. You're going to see a very tight race between 3 or 4, depending on how strong the division is.
There might be a couple game 61s.
I think there will be a couple of game 61s. I think potentially,
let's get crazy.
The National League East could be a 3 or a 4-way free-for-all between the Nationals, the Braves, the Phillies, and the Mets. I don't think the Marlins are ready for prime time yet, but these 4 teams, and Philly and New York are going to have to do a little bit more because on paper, Washington and Atlanta are the 2 best teams in that division. You could conceivably have a 4-team race. You go to the Central Division. All right, Pittsburgh is supposedly the team everyone thinks is going to finish in the basement. And I'm looking at this, and I don't know if John Parado sparked some interest in me in Pirates baseball all of a sudden, but let me repeat what he said. What happens if the tandem of the 2 youngsters that the Pirates have, they become a solid pitcher? Williams reverts back to his 2018 second half of the season. And again, I say second half or whatever half because 60 games, they're not even playing half a season. You're going to get 10, 11, 12 starts. If you're dominant in those 10 or 11 or 12 starts, you're automatically putting your team into contention. So what happens if the pitching staff actually overachieves and the offense does what we think it's capable of doing with Reynolds and Bell and Polanco and the young shortstop and second baseman, Newman, and who's the second baseman that they have over in Pittsburgh? And I'm going to have to do some research. And Ian Moran. What happens if these guys put up the numbers where we think they're capable of, and the pitching staff overachieves? Pittsburgh becomes a player in that division because the season's only 60 games. You're going to see a wild free-for-all. Cubs, Brewers, Cardinals, Reds, they should all be there.
It's funny because when you go through these divisions, there are a lot of teams that you look at them and they have pieces. They might not have pieces on one side or the other, but they got pieces.
Yeah.
You look at the Tigers, they got the pitching.
They got pitching. They don't have much hitting.
You look at the Royals, they got the offense.
Yeah, but they don't have much pitching.
I know. You don't. What if offense sustains for 60 games and they go, oh, okay.
What happens if Miguel Cabrera carries that Tigers team on his back and goes back to the Miggy of the 2004, 2005, 2006 type of year, and he carries the Tigers on his back for a stretch of 40 or 50 games.
Right.
All of a sudden, with that pitching staff, albeit young, Tigers become a player.
And that's the thing about young pitchers. You don't know if they're bad. You just know they're inexperienced. They could be really good pitchers. You just don't know.
And here's the other thing, and I've said this for a long time. If you go into the major leagues, you are going to have, if you're solid, you're going to have instant success until the point where someone now forms a book on you. And when someone forms a book on you, then you have to go through the process of readjusting. How long does a player have before he gets a book? 60 games.
So you're going to be found out in the playoffs, and that's why I think the playoffs might be more chalk.
I think the playoffs will definitely be chalk, but you might see some teams coming out of nowhere to win a division that they have no business winning.
Right, but then if that happens, then all of a sudden, like let's say the Astros lose the AL West.
Which is a possibility because Oakland is a pretty damn good team.
All of a sudden, one of the best teams in the AL and one of the World Series favorites, quote unquote,
they're out the door.
They're not even in the playoffs. They might be in the wild card, and they have to go up against whoever the 1 seed is, Yankees, Rays, whatever. I think the 1 seed is coming out of the East no matter what.
I don't know about that.
You think maybe Central? Because they're Central.
I think, and again, this is all going to depend on. Does the Tigers have no pitching or no offense and pitching, and the Royals have no pitching but offense, and if they play the way the experts, and I use that air quotes, if they play the way the experts say they are, and they're below 500, and the White Sox aren't as good as advertised, now whoever wins that division has a gigantic record because 2/3 of your season is against your inner division. So the Central may very well have the best team in the American League record-wise. Doesn't mean they're going to be the best team, period. but it's because the Central Division may not play as well. Conversely, Boston has all kinds of problems. Sale's out for the rest of the year. That pitching staff is not all that good. If their pitching isn't good, we know Baltimore is going to struggle because they're rebuilding.
You can't even say they're rebuilding. They're still getting supplies to build because they haven't even started the building process. I mean, the Orioles are just bad.
The problem is their owner is an idiot.
Right. I mean, the Orioles are just.
I mean, at least this owner doesn't spend his time in strip joints, or looks like the type of guy that would do it.
Do you think the Orioles win more than 15 games this year?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think they will. I think they're probably around 22 or 23.
I wouldn't be surprised if they went under 20.
But I think, and John brought this up, Toronto's got an interesting team. I completely forgot they picked up Ryu, and I forgot the fact they picked up Ryu, who was a really good pitcher for the Los Angeles Dodgers last year. You put him in that rotation. You got Dante Bichette's kid, Vlad Guerrero's kid on that team. You got a couple of other kids that can hit the ball. That's not a bad baseball team.
Did you see Fox Sports pick their preseason NL MVP as Acuna Jr.?
I can see that. He's poised to have a breakout year, and I can see that.
If you don't call last year a breakout year, I mean, he had a pretty
solid year. Absolutely,
out of nowhere
he did
last year, really. So
there's another kid, and he's locally, and I think that if he has, and again because it's 60 games. And the way he performed in the first half, that got him on the All-Star game roster. I think Josh Bell has a really good chance to put up some hardware. Again, this is all going to depend on, all right, is Reynolds going to get on base? Is Dyson going to get on base? Is Newman going to get on base? And if they're all on base and Bell's up and he starts hitting with runners in scoring position and he accumulates all kinds of runs batted in, and the Pirates start winning ball games, now you got Josh Bell as a conversation piece to possibly win the award. It's going to be a fun year. I mean, it just is. It's just okay. I'm still pissed at Major League Baseball because they didn't start on July the 4th. But I'm slowly but surely getting over it. Now I'm a hypocrite.
And then Wednesday is going to be real fun because you're going to be giddy.
Yeah, I'm going to be a hypocrite. Yeah. I hate being that way, but it's just...
It's not hypocrisy to be mad at something and still be excited for it. You know, okay, we're mad at baseball.
Yeah.
But we're gonna kind of put that away for a minute just to enjoy baseball.
I'm going to enjoy
because we love the sport of
absolutely.
baseball. We're mad at the organization of the MLB, but we're not mad at baseball as a sport. And if it's being played, we're going to enjoy it.
Baseball's still my favorite sport. I'm just mad at the idiots that run the asylum.
So
we're going to take a timeout, and before we get Gary Austu on the air, we have to talk about the pervert in charge of the Washington Redskins, Mr. Snyder, and the story that was supposed to be the changing of the Washington Redskins has now become something out of the Jerry Springer show, where I wouldn't be surprised if the Redskins were given a 2-hour Jerry Springer special.
Well, I'll get into that, but what's crazy is right now it's like Ron Rivera is running that team, and there's no owner almost.
Yeah, it's crazy. It is patently absurd what is going on in Washington, D.C., not only with the politicians, but with the football program in D.C.
And we'll only talk about the football
program. And we're only going to talk about the football program because I don't want to talk about anything else because that's just another subject that's just going to make me upset. We're only going to talk football and maybe throw in a couple of references of cinnamon on stage. That's all coming up after this timeout. It is a Friday edition of Running Point on YSNLive.com.
Baird Brothers remains your source for fine hardwood products. For the time being, we're open for customer pickup only on weekdays, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and Saturday from 9 a.m. till noon. Place your order online at BairdBrothers.com. Baird Brothers, for the place you love.
Quality, customer service, and integrity. Those are the 4 words that have driven our success since 1957 at Joe Dickey Electric.
Joe Dickey Electric is one Mahoning Valley landmark business that stays current with the requirements of our customers. Family owned and managed, we are an electrical contractor and energy solutions provider. Every member of our team adds to his or her skill set through ongoing training. Residential, commercial, industrial, automotive, and more. we keep ahead of the needs of our customers with a fleet of more than 50 vehicles and 24/7 emergency service, so you're never left in the dark.
The 4M Company, being an architect and construction manager for over 40 years, has had the opportunity to use many different electrical businesses for our projects. The depth, quality, and knowledge and attention to detail displayed by Dickey Electric makes them stand out above all the rest.
For state-of-the-art expertise and a timeless commitment to our customers, contact Joe Dickey Electric. We are everything electrical.
Friday night, he's fresh limousine. I'm feeling pretty good about myself, like I'm living the dream. Platform shoes, strut down the street. It's gonna get hot in here, I hope you can handle the heat.
Over the years, you watched us grow, and as we've grown, so has the Myers Family Insurance team.
Thanks to all of you who have trusted our families to help you with your Medicare needs.
Myers Family Insurance looks forward to helping you now for years to come, so call our family today and remind them how cute we are.
Myers Family Insurance continues to be the area's resource for all your Medicare and retirement needs. Call today, 330-286-3044.
It is a phone-in Friday edition of Running Point on YSNLive.com. Before we get Gary Houston on, we have to address a scenario going on in our nation's capital. And what started out as, hey, the Washington Redskins are going to be changing their name, long overdue. They're going to get rid of the name Redskins. They're going to change it to something else. And then they started looking at a story that is now developing where
the Washington Post broke it.
Yeah, the Washington Post broke the story of how
15 women have accused members of the Redskins, executive staff of sexual harassment in the workplace, and most of them are reporters. By the way,
a lot of those people are no longer working in the Redskins organization. No idea whether this all goes back to Daniel Snyder. No idea whether this goes back to George Allen's kid. All it is a really, really bad look, and obviously the now pundits are saying things that are kind of, if you're a Redskins fan and you're hearing the sarcastic comments coming out of the mouths of those who are not Redskins fans, and they're talking about Daniel Snyder and how he let all of this happen. It's a terrible look for the organization.
It doesn't even surprise me, because 2 years ago we had that story about Redskins cheerleaders being basically pimped out to suite owners. It came out in 2018. I believe the incidents happened in 2013. But the Redskins have been a very poorly owned organization for a long time. This isn't new news. This isn't new news that they don't handle their stuff with respect or professionalism. So I wasn't the least bit surprised that this was going on in Washington.
This kind of reminds me, if you watched the series Mad Men on TV, the setting was 1960s advertising on television, and you had a man's world, quote unquote. And women were treated like second-class citizens or subservient objects instead of human beings. And you get the feeling that the organization has taken a page from the Mad Men playbook, and it's like the 1960s all over again.
Dan, I think this will work.
Wait a second. How tall is that woman again? Oh, yeah. This could work. Put her over here. And I mean, are you kidding me with this? I don't understand what part of stupid of all of this does this organization not get? This isn't the 1960s anymore, where women were treated as an object or as anything but a human being. I mean, this is a different era. We have grown as a society to understand not only should women be treated equal, some of them are actually really good at what they do, away from your perverted image of women. I don't understand for the life of me how any organization could still possibly have that archaic view. That would be as absurd as treating the African American kids pre-civil rights movement.
Right.
Are you kidding me? You're not going to sit here and do anything that stupid. We've grown as a society from this. You don't revert back to the 1960s in terms of how you treat people, or the 50s or 40s. This is the 21st century. We've grown as a society. We've actually, for the most part, learned from our mistakes. I mean, except for the Redskins, they want to treat women as an object and not as a human being.
And here's what makes it really just eye-poppingly bad in Washington. Do you remember when the Mavericks had that scandal where they were having a little bit of sexual harassment?
Oh yeah.
Mark Cuban was on TV the very next day, and he came out as a leader. He owned it. He responded to it, and then he nipped it in the bud and he took care of it. Dan Snyder's nowhere to be found right now. He's probably in an island somewhere, sipping a margarita in a bunker. But be a leader. Own your mistakes. That you either were you either did it or you didn't know what was going on. Either way, it's a bad mistake. But the difference is there where Mark Cuban is one of probably one of the best owners in sports. He came out and handled it right because he knew it was a problem. He came on TV the next day. He owned it. He took responsibility for it, and then he fixed the issue. I mean, it's really simple.
Now here's the problem. Even if the Redskins owner decides, hey, I'm gonna address the issue and take care of it.
It's way too late.
Dude,
now.
It's been going on for 15 years. Are you kidding me? I mean, you've owned this team and it's been going on, whether it's under your nose or whether you've been behind the scenes encouraging this crap. It's gone on way too far for you to sit back and say, well, now we're going to nip it in the bud. That's like saying, oh, the horses are out of the barn. Let's close the barn now. What?
Quick, close it.
Yeah, quick, close it. All the horses are 1.5 miles down the road.
Make sure none of them escape. They're all gone.
Yeah, they're all gone, bro.
There's not even an ounce of leadership in Dan Snyder at all.
Horrible. So what we all thought was going to be the Washington football team is going to change their name.
Now it's like
now it's turned into a full-blown Jerry Springer special, and we'll hear the crowd starting to chant different names and pole dancers and all the other rigmarole that goes with that. And somewhere Daniel Snyder has to be looking at this wondering, do I still have a football team?
You know what's sad? I mean, with all the terrible stuff that came out about the Reds, it might not be enough where they get rid of Dan Snyder. They might not do it. They might keep Dan Snyder where he's at.
Personally, I think he should be gotten rid of.
Yeah,
because what he did is every bit as bad. Maybe not socially, but every bit as bad as what Donald Sterling has done with the Los Angeles Clippers, and they took that franchise away from him.
Right.
Okay, you're not dealing with a social injustice per se. You're now dealing with sexual harassment. Both of them are wrong, and this has gone on way too long. Yeah, Daniel Snyder should have his toy taken away from him. We're going to take a timeout. When we come back, we'll hear from Gary Houstew, and Gary's the Houstew family's memorial tournament for older brother Chuck, who left us far, far, far too early in life. We will talk about the Chuck Houstew Memorial Golf Tournament coming up tomorrow over at Bedford Trails. That's coming up next. Stick around, more to come.
They say American craftsmanship is making a comeback. Of course, at Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, it never went away.
People are floored by Baird Brothers' authentic hardwood floors. They stare at our stairs and adore our doors. Baird Brothers reflects 3 generations of family craftsmanship, Visit our huge in-stock selection in person or at BairdBrothers.com.
Baird Brothers, our family's heritage, your family's home.
Planning a project around your home or rental property? Trust the electrical service to the local experts with 62 years of serving the Mahoning Valley. Joe Dickey Electric is your local go-to source for responsive, reliable residential electrical work. From everyday maintenance and repairs to new installations, electrical upgrades, and safety inspections, no job is too big or too small. Call Joe Dickey Electric today, 800-549-3976, or visit DickeyElectric.com. That's DickeyElectric.com.
Myers Family Insurance knows the importance of a great team.
Our team continues to grow to help you with your Medicare and retirement needs.
The annual election period is here, so it's all hands on deck to make sure your plans still meet your needs for 2020.
Call us today.
It is a phone-in Friday edition of Running Points on YSNLive.com. Ron Potesta with you alongside Anthony Hardwig, and let's talk to a longtime friend, and he'll be back on this particular show as well very, very soon. He is Gary Houstu, and Gary is going to be taking part in Chuck's 10th annual Memorial Golf Outing tomorrow, and he's kind enough, Gary is, to join us on the program. It's been a long time, my friend. How you feeling?
I'm doing good, Ron. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm just living life day by day, and trying to enjoy this beautiful weather as well. And thanks for having me on the show today.
All right, 10th annual Chuck Houstu Memorial Golf Tournaments. We've talked about this a ton of times when I had Sports Wrap on iHeartRadio. The golf outing is going to be at Bedford Trails tomorrow. Give everyone an idea of what is going on tomorrow during this really, really wonderful event.
Well, unfortunately, because, with my brother passing 10 years ago in November of 2010, he died of a heart attack, so unexpected, just worst way you could almost imagine. He's in peace, but, like I said, we're here still grieving for him after 10 years, and we've started up a tournament right away just because, he left the earth too early, and, he had more to give, and, and I try to carry on what he's done and who he is through some of the things that I've done in my life. And so we've had this golf outing now for the 10th year. The great Sam Cavelli and his wife Karen have been big sponsors from day one of this tournament. Chuck worked for Sam Cavelli for 33 years, and he was still working when he passed. So there's a lot of loyalty there both ways, and we appreciate Sam Cavelli being involved. He's a great Buckeye. He's a great Penguin. And then for this year being the 10th anniversary, I could keep talking on and on, but I'll try to keep it short here. I just reached out to someone I consider a friend who's been in my corner with my cancer battle all along, Jim Trussell. I just said, Coach, it's our 10th year. We have our foundation with YSU. With my brother, would you be kind enough to sign something for us so we could have it for our auction item? And what do you know? He texted me right back. He goes, what time is the auction? I don't know what time is the outing. I'll be there, and whatever you need, I got everything covered. Don't even worry about it. So we're so fortunate to have great people involved. Rick Frieda from Comco Industries has been a huge help. He's a family friend for many years. Great person. We have so many great people involved, Ron. And when you were on the radio, you promoted it from day one as well. When I was with you, and I just appreciate that. And my life's been about enjoying what you have every day. People take for granted that we were just born in this great, best country in the world. We are so fortunate, each and every one of us, and we forget to count all the, the blessings and smell the roses day by day. And I hope it takes an experience like this to really maybe put people's priorities back in order, Ron. And I know it's hard to ask and for donations and stuff that we have during this time. we really haven't, we just wanted to make people aware because it was a special occasion, and our ultimate goal is to get to 100,000, and we're around 80, and maybe one or two more. Maybe this will be the last golf outing. We don't know, but in a nutshell, I'm just grateful, and this tournament's an opportunity to share some fellowship and with great people and for a great cause and a great, beautiful afternoon. And if you have nothing to do tomorrow, come out and see Trestle. We, at this point, our teams are kind of set, but we'll try to throw one or two more in if we can. And God bless you for just having this opportunity, Ron. Thank you. It's all about Chuck, as you know, Ron, more than anybody else, as much as anybody else.
When you see the amount of people that come out and support, and the people that kind of, even if they're not coming out to the golf course, are giving you random acts of kindness and supporting the cause, well, how does that make you feel about this community and the people that are in it, and the way they get behind you in this golf outing?
Well, unfortunately, I have firsthand experience because I had one of the greatest fundraisers ever when I was diagnosed with cancer, and I didn't mean this to get like this, but in 2017, Ryan Kelly from Kelly's Bar at the time put on just an unbelievable event for me, and I'm so grateful, and I know what it's all about. With help from my family and others, I don't want to go through a whole list and all the sports people involved and everybody who contributed to that. It was such a success. I was amazed. My daughter, all her friends. So unfortunately, I've experienced in having fundraisers for people that might be in need of it, I guess you can say, or appreciate it, whatever word or phrase you want to use. I'm very familiar with the love from this valley. So this is nothing new to me. And Coach Trestle, I've been around the whole gamut with him, from YSU, all the championships, to Ohio State. I might be one of the only ones in the whole state of Ohio that's been involved with his whole career, if you look at it that way. So I'm grateful for what we have every day. My sister Shar is wonderful. She does all this for us, making sure we're doing what we need. Ray, my mom, everybody involved. We're all hustling right now in the last minute. I want to thank Chick-fil-A in the Southern Park Mall for sponsoring some sandwiches for us, breakfast sandwiches, to help our outing get started. So I'm grateful. That's a long answer to your question. Thank you.
Hey, Gary, the shotgun start, is it somewhere around 9 o'clock tomorrow morning?
Yeah, it's around 9. Coach Trestle, he'll be there early to probably just to say hi to everybody and greet them, and just he's a regular person, and you'll see tomorrow. Coach Trestle is a great person. Everybody who knows him will say the same thing. If you know him kind of personally, he's just a great person no matter what. And to have him involved in this, and for no other reason. And Ron, it's been tough because with this situation, we didn't even know about 4 weeks ago to even have one or not. So. Andy Grishow, I want to plug Bedford Trails for what they do. He's a former Warren Harding and Pitt Panther football player, a Bedford Trails owner and operator out there, proprietor. Give him some help and support as well, because he's had some because of the situation. He's had some tough times, so maybe this can help him out as well as he's helping us out. So we're all just trying to do our part to pay it forward. And what a better person, my gosh, to use the term "pay it forward" than have Jim Trestle around. So come on out and have some fun, drink some beer if you like, water, pop, whatever you like. At this time, I'm sure everybody's set or your agendas are full, but we just want to make it aware. It's all for Chuck, my brother, who really, God bless him. He's in peace, but we're just doing our part to make sure that nobody forgets, what he did when he was here, and I'm a living tribute to him as well. So just appreciate all these opportunities. Being afflicted with cancer like I have, you become way more emotional than you've ever been before, and I could attest to that. But I've been so fortunate around for as much as I've experienced, both positive and negative. Wow, just every day I wake up and I thank you. I'm just so grateful, and I'm doing my part to beat COVID. I'm trying to be healthy. I've lost a ton of weight since my surgery in June. And it's just hopefully becoming a lifestyle for me now. And if I could inspire anybody, and keep doing it, and through my brother and through what we do, that's all it's about, And photography has given me a great vehicle to make people happy and smile and enjoy what they have. And pictures last forever. And I never was a believer in them, Ron. Especially being a person who was always heavy, I avoided the camera. But I wish I had more with my brother right now that would last forever, other than memories.
Hey, Gary, for those that are going to be golfing and for those that are thinking about going to Bedford Trails tomorrow, you're going to be taken care of not just with a golf. There's going to be plenty of food there. If I'm not mistaken, you got breakfast, lunch, and dinner all taken care of for the day. Tell us a little bit about the food aspect of it, the golf aspect, how much it costs for those that are still
Sure.
on the fence trying to figure out whether they want to get a foursome together or not tomorrow.
Sure. Well, golfers are it's a 75 a person, 300 a team. We do have a couple partial teams that might come together, or so if you want to come, you might be partnered with a sports celebrity in the area that might be there too. So you never know. I can't promise you, but the breakfast, we have the golfers all have a nice Chick-fil-A sandwich, breakfast sandwich when they right before they're ready to golf. We have pop, beer on the course. I drive around to take not only pictures, but sometimes I guess I have a little bit of adult beverages of the quicker variety, if you will, with me to salute at the tee box, if you will. So we have drinks of all kinds. Then lunch, we have some hot dogs on the turn. I think just my sister Charnel's like the breakfast sandwiches are by Bill James and at Chick-fil-A in the mall, not the popular Boardman restaurant as everybody's familiar with, but Bill's his own proprietor there. So if you can support him in the mall, that'd be great as well. And then for dinner, Sonny he does the catering at St. Luke's. Him and John Dapolito, I believe. I don't want to put words in my mouth if that's not correct. They're handling we'll have a nice spaghetti dinner with chicken and green beans and stuff like that after. And when we have our DJ provided by, Sergeant Bob V, everybody knows him from MVP Entertainment. So great person. He just always does everything, for anybody as well. So we just have great people involved, Ron, and beer, pop, water, everything we need. Andy Grishow is there. If you need anything from the course, he's there. Just a great day, and the weather's going to be beautiful. So, again, thank you for this opportunity. If you just want to come by, you could pay for a drink or a beer or whatever at the clubhouse if you want, and just come out and say hi and have some fellowship, and then everybody will tee off, and we'll go from there.
And if you're not interested in golfing, but you want to contribute to the to what is going on, all the money is going to be going to the YSU journalism department, in which Chuck has an endowment, and that's just the icing on the cake in all of this. Is the money is going to be staying in the Valley, and it's going to help some fortunate future journalists in this area, and hopefully they stay in this area.
Yeah, we've been fortunate through Paul McFadden of the YSU Foundation. Our contributions, everything we make once we pay our bills from this tournament, we write a check. Of course, we have a cash buffer that we keep, and we write a check to Paul McFadden and YSU Foundation for an endowment that funds at least 2, it might be 3 journalism scholarships per year. And as the foundation grows, hopefully we can get it to a 6-figure foundation. That's our goal, and then we won't have to bother anybody with any more golf outings, I guess. But anyway, if you want to contribute that way, you can find us on Facebook and make a note. We'll get back to you. I have a Venmo account, something my daughter sent me up with, so if you want it, you could reach out to that if you want. Anything. We're just grateful for this opportunity because we know because of Sam Cavelli, we're making money before we even start. So we're just very blessed and grateful for the community and for the friendship and the fellowship and having Jim Trussell. There's just icing on the cake, and I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to promote my brother because that's what it's all about. Chuck, Ron, do you know him personally? He left the world too early, and we got to keep his memory alive in perpetuity, I guess you can say.
Gary, I'm sure you'll be out on the golf course, taking photos, and you are such a great sports photographer. You take a lot of great shots of the local athletes. What's kind of your favorite thing about going out in the community and taking pictures of these kids that they can have and they can kind of treasure forever?
I didn't hear the end of the question. I'm sorry.
I just asked, what's your kind of favorite thing about going out in the Valley and taking the pictures that you do and doing what you do? What's the most rewarding part of that job?
I do some. I've just started to do some more portrait work that I really enjoy too. And the biggest thing I'd like to, it's just for people who know me, just if you smile when you look at my pictures, that's all I care about. I'm not to I'm not the best photographer. I don't try to prove anything to anybody. I just go out and do what I love to do, and hopefully people love the results. And I've had an opportunity through, a couple of organizations like Buck Nuts and BSB that I've been able to have an opportunity. This, God willing, and a season as well. This will be my 20th year photographing Ohio State football, and I haven't missed a home game in the shoe in 19 seasons. And then I don't, there's not many that could say that as well. I'm just blessed. What can I say? I'm just grateful and blessed. And through my disease, I've never missed a game, and I've just been very blessed. And I just like to make people smile at this point. Pay it forward, Jim Tressel. I mean, what more do you need in this world, especially at this time? So, again, I'm just very humbled and grateful for any opportunity. Just to, here's another day. God bless you.
For those that don't remember, and I suppose that you would have to be in your late 30s, early 40s to remember the playbook. Chuck Houstu was very much involved in the Valley's playbook. You, Chuck, older brother Raymond was all involved in that, and Chuck was a string reporter for the Vindicator. Did a lot of City Series games and back in the day, and Chuck had he had a great vision for being a sports writer, and it wasn't his full-time job, but whenever he covered a game, you knew that the game was going to be told in an accurate way through the eyes of Chuck. And one of the things that I would miss about him most is just the way that he was able to write the written word of a sporting event. He put it in ways that should have been put. He was a brilliant high school and just sports writer in general. I thought he did a fantastic job, and the Valley's playbook to this day, there are still people that hope and pray that there could be a revisit to the high school Valley's playbook.
Yeah, I've heard that before, once or twice. Chuck was the catalyst for all that. He had a desire just to again, so I sort of, echo the same sentiments he did, to just, give the kids in this area credit they might not happen to get, or extra credit. And that's why, he worked in a jam bar. Chuck went to YSU, worked his way up, covered for the Vindicator, worked for the jam bar, did it all that way, and he just wanted to do something more. So with Bruce Burge, my brother Ray, Chuck, and myself, we started the Valley's Playbook. The tagline was area's premier sports newspaper at the time, or I think that was it. I should know that by heart by now. I've read enough of it. It was all copy and paste at the time, Ron. So if we found a mistake on page 98 of our football preview issue, we had to really do some back checking, and you never knew what could happen. Whereas now on the computer, it's so much more easy. These kids have no idea how easy they have it. That's another reason why. Oh well, that's another reason you get my drift. But anyway. It was a successful run. It got too big; we couldn't manage it anymore. And actually, I had other opportunities. I started working with, BSB at the time, and Tressel started in 2001, and we ended about 1999 or in that time period as well. A good 10-year run. Our first issue, Ron. If we have time, just cut me off. I don't know. Ron Stoops, unfortunately, his passing in the season before was chronicled in our 1989 season, our first issue, and I have a copy of that. Chuck wrote the story on Going It Alone. That was Don Butchie at the time, and Ron Stoops was no longer on that staff because he passed away from the heart attack at the Boardman football game the year before. We all remember that. So, I've had some great experiences, Ron, and I have some projects coming up in the fall that you'll see as they pop up, but. I want to take advantage of all the photography I've done over the years, good and bad. I freely admit that I wish I was a better photographer then, and I still inspire to this day when I look at guys like Dave Dermer, and I have a couple of local people that have really been great to me, and Bill Lewis and Bob Yossi right off the bat from the Vindicator. There's not two better people, in the photography business that I've had the pleasure of. I hope they hear this somehow. So, anyway, it's all a passion, Ron. To this day, I carry on are probably from Chuck's, foresight. He's probably ahead of his time. And I've been sort of with, one of the guys who was a writer who became a photographer, and now I do both, and I try to do both very well. And I enjoy it. I enjoy being around these young people. They make me young. I'm making them happy, making them smile, is what I try to do. And I carry that on in Chuck's name and Chuck's image, and this is a chance to celebrate him. So, I tell people, you knew Chuck. He might have managed your T-ball team, softball team, baseball team. He was an umpire. He worked for Covelli. He might have hired you at McDonald's. He might have hired you at Panera Bread. He might have been a classmate of yours. He might have been to YSU. You had a journalism class with him. You might have been in a Guts Club card group as St. Joe's, men's club. You can get a hold of us in his name, in his honor, if you want to. We're very easy to find on Facebook, Venmo, anything you want. And I just mean this because we're so close to a tangible goal in my brother's name, and I just want to, until we get that, I probably will, somehow keep touting his image and keeping his image alive in our memories. And more than memories. Thank you.
Bedford Trails Golf Course, that's up on State Route 422 on the Ohio-PA line, and it should be a good time tomorrow, starting at 9 o'clock, though I suggest you get there early.
Yeah, as long as you're there to tee off, we'll be good. The shotgun's at 9, so get there early and maybe get in line if you want to. No, Tressel will be hanging out with everybody. There's nothing formal about it tomorrow, honestly. Just come out, and if you're one of our golfers already, you'll see. You'll have a good time, and I promise that I'll take a good picture of you at the tee box too as well. So thank you, Ron. I appreciate this. All the friends we have out there in the sports world we're very grateful for just doing what we do, and I'm very grateful for the chances that I have and things I've done in my lifetime. So thank you, appreciate it, and go Penguins, go Bucks. And let's have football this fall, period. You can't punish these kids any more than we already have. So God bless America, and thank you, Ron.
Hey, you got to get into the studios in East Palestine and get the band back together Fridays at 2 o'clock. I'm just saying.
We'll work on it. I got a lot of projects going on, but I'm willing to contribute to any way I can, Ron. If you know me, and my word is sincere. Honestly, thank you.
I appreciate it, brother. All the best to you, kid. I hope you guys have a crazy good outing tomorrow, and hopefully people are giving an obscene amount of money for a great cause tomorrow.
And Ron, you've been there all along, both my sickness and you've been around Chuck long enough. I appreciate this. You have a voice, and I appreciate you reaching out to let me share this experience with you, and maybe people will be able to listen later online, I guess. Yes, correct? Or not?
Absolutely. Yeah, the show's archived, so hopefully people will be listening in. If they're not listening in now, hopefully they're listening in prior to Saturday morning. And, it's sad. You and I do have the one thing in common. You lost Chuck at a very early age with a heart attack. Unfortunately, I lost my brother, who would be 60 years of age today. It would be his 60th birthday today. And last February, he left the earth a similar way, and I'm with you on that. It's tough. It's very tough.
Chuck would have been 61 in April, so I mean, I feel you're on, and that's life, though. I tell people, here's something you don't really appreciate, and this might help you a little bit more when you lose a loved one. Everybody comes into the funeral and they give you their condolences and blessings, but they leave and life goes on for them, but you're left with the grief. Everybody experiences it. I'm just kind of highlighting it again.
Sure, absolutely.
It doesn't go away 10 years later.
It's not going
10 years
away.
later, it doesn't go away.
Absolutely. And mine's only been a year and a half, and it's not going away anytime soon. It's it just is what it is. I feel for anyone that has gone through what we have both gone through, and the good news is you guys get to you have a wonderful outing tomorrow, and hopefully everyone's going to have a great time golfing in a fantastic course at Bedford, and more importantly, folks are going to open their wallets and give to a really, really good cause.
All right, Ron, thank you so much. Have a great day.
All right, brother, you as well. Gary House joining us on the YSN hotline, and Yeah, that's a club I don't wish anyone to join. That's it's tough. Very, very tough. So there you go. All right, 330-886-0813. Back to wrap this bad boy up after this timeout. Stick around.
Hey, my Ohio friends, it's Mike Ditka, and I know great talent and heart when I see it. I can tell you from firsthand experience, there are average real estate agents, then there are true champions. Kelly Warren is one of those champions, and you have her right there in your own backyard. Kelly outmarkets and outsells every agent in the Mahoning Valley. If Kelly can't sell your home at a price and deadline you agree to, Kelly will buy it. Get your home sold. Call Kelly Warren today at 717-2689 or go online to kellysold.com and start packing.
You can feel it. Baird Brothers' traditional craftsmanship. You can see it. Baird Brothers' timeless style. And you can afford it. And find everything at BairdBrothers.com. Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods is real hardwood, yet beautifully affordable. Floors, moldings, interior doors, bar rails, and stair parts. All within your means and without a care. Start at BairdBrothers.com. You have made it. Your home.
Teams work hard and give it all they've got. Well, so does ours, because 21 Sports and YSN give you extra effort when covering local sports. 21 Sports and YSN, winning coverage of our Valley's teams.
Welcome back to a phone-in Friday edition of Running Point on YSNLive.com as we get set to close things up. And what do we got coming up? I know we have the full court on at 4 o'clock today. Do we have
Power Hour from 3 to 4?
Yeah, we have Power Hour coming up in a little bit, so we'll get out of here in a couple of minutes. Full show next week, including our predictions sure to go wrong on Wednesday.
Yeah, I don't know about me. I mean,
well, your predictions are so far pretty solid.
I
mean, let me go with your boy, Mr. Rahm. By the way, Tiger Woods looks like he is going to be missing the cut. Rahm finishes the afternoon 5 under. He is 8 under for the tournament. He is one shot in back of the lead in the second round of the Memorial. So you're in pretty good shape. My guy is pretty much toast. This just in. My guy's pretty much toast. Dustin Johnson is even through 6. He was 8 under for the first round. He ain't getting anywhere unless he goes 6 under the rest of the way. Then he would make the cut. Who was our
Justin Thomas is torn.
Justin Thomas.
I think he was right at he ended yesterday at 2 over.
Yeah, Justin Thomas. As we take a look here real quick, is even for the tournament, or even for the second round. 2 over for the tournament, and right now 2 over is the cut line. So he would survive to the weekend if he continues to be 2 over. Tiger Woods was 4 over today after a 1 under par in the first round. He is not going to be making the cut unless a lot of golfers crap on themselves between now and the rest of the day. It's going to do it for the show. Running Point is done, and Power Hour is coming up. We'll talk on Monday, YSN Live.